Hello and welcome back to the Sleepy Rider channel. I hope the Kawasaki video gave you a good night. Tonight we're moving to the brand with the S. Suzuki made motorcycles because it needed to survive, not as a mission statement, not as a strategic vision, as a literal response to post-war Japan running out of thread. The company that would become one of the four great Japanese motorcycle manufacturers began in 1909 as a loom manufacturer in Hamamatsu, making weaving machines for the Japanese textile industry. By 1950, the textile market had collapsed badly enough that Michio Suzuki, the founder's grandson who was now running the company, understood that the business needed something new to sell. He looked at the same post-war Japan that Soichiro Honda was looking at, fuel-scarce, rail-limited, full of people who needed to get somewhere that walking wouldn't reach in time, and built a 36cc engine that could be attached to a bicycle. The power-free, as he called it, worked. He built a better one. Then a motorcycle. And then, over the following 7 decades, 350 million more of them. The looms are long gone. The motorcycles are everywhere. Let yourself settle in. Nothing is required of you tonight except comfortable stillness. The facts are on their way, each one arriving at its own pace, none of them in a hurry. The Suzuki story is long and quietly extraordinary, and the night is generous enough to hold all of it. The Suzuki Hayabusa is the most aerodynamically refined production motorcycle in history. Not the most powerful, though it was the fastest production motorcycle in the world when it was introduced in 1999. Not the most technologically sophisticated, though its engineering is serious. The Hayabusa's specific distinction is the degree to which its shape was developed to reduce air resistance. With a wind tunnel program that produced the distinctive teardrop profile, the recessed mirrors, the specific geometry of the tail section, and the integrated fairing that together produce a drag coefficient of 0.56. This number may not mean much in isolation, but in context, a typical large displacement sport motorcycle of the same era has a drag coefficient in the range of 0.7 to 0.8. The Hayabusa's 0.56 is the outcome of hundreds of wind tunnel hours applied to the specific engineering problem of making a motorcycle whose shape was determined primarily by aerodynamic efficiency rather than by styling convention or manufacturing convenience. The name Hayabusa means peregrine falcon in Japanese, a bird that dives at speeds exceeding 200 miles per hour and whose silhouette, when diving, has a natural aerodynamic optimization that Suzuki's designers consciously referenced. The machine is named for the fastest animal on Earth. That is not a coincidence. The Suzuki GSX R750, introduced in 1985, did not merely enter an existing market category. It created one. Before the GSX R750, the fastest production motorcycles were road machines that happened to be capable on a track when ridden carefully. After the GSX R750, the fastest production motorcycles were race machines that happened to be road legal. The distinction is not aesthetic, it is engineering. The GSX R750 used an air oil-cooled 4-cylinder engine in an aluminum alloy frame weighing 176 kilograms complete, which was lighter than most contemporary 400cc machines. At the power output the GSX R750 produced, this weight meant that the machine accelerated with a ferocity and cornered with a precision that road motorcycles of the previous generation did not approach. Every major motorcycle manufacturer subsequently produced a sports machine in the format the GSX R750 established, and every one of those machines traces its conceptual lineage to the original. This is what it means to define a category, not to build something first, but to build it in a form so complete that everything following it is defined by the relationship to the definition you established. The year 1985 was a specific moment in Suzuki's history for reasons that go beyond the GSX-R 750's introduction. In the same year, Suzuki's factory team was campaigning the RG500 in Grand Prix racing with Frank Picard and other factory riders. The company was producing the Doctor series of large displacement trail bikes for the off-road market that was growing across the world's developing economies. And Michio Suzuki's strategic development of the company's manufacturing footprint outside Japan was producing the first fruits of what would become one of the most geographically distributed manufacturing operations in the Japanese motorcycle industry. 1985 was the year that Suzuki was simultaneously a racing manufacturer, a mass transportation manufacturer, a performance road motorcycle manufacturer, and a global industrial operation. This simultaneity, the ability to hold all of these identities at once without any of them being compromised by the others, is one of Suzuki's most underappreciated qualities and one of the things that makes the company's history more interesting than a focus on any single dimension of it would suggest. The Suzuki GSX-R 1000, introduced in 2001 as the flagship of the GSX-R family, produced approximately 160 horsepower from a 988cc inline-4 engine in a machine weighing 170 kilograms. These numbers were extraordinary in 2001. The machine could accelerate from 0 to 60 miles per hour in approximately 2.8 seconds and reach a top speed of approximately 175 miles per hour. The engineering that produced these numbers involved specific innovations in engine breathing, cooling system design, and chassis construction that were derived from Suzuki's racing development and that appeared in the production machine in modified but recognizable form. The GSX-R 1000's significance in the motorcycle market of the early 2000s was not simply that it was fast. It was that it was fast in a form that could be purchased by an ordinary person at an ordinary dealership, which meant that the performance that had previously been available only to professional racers or people who could afford hand-built machines became, effectively, democratized. The GSX-R 1000's introduction accelerated the arms race in the litter-class sports bike segment that produced successively faster and more capable machines through the first decade of the 21st century. And the specific engineering decisions that Suzuki made in the original machine set the parameters within which every competitor's response was developed. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel. These long, unhurried rides through the history of machines you love are here every time you need them. Subscribe now and keep the channel close. The Suzuki GS series, which began with the GS 750 in 1976 and rapidly expanded to cover displacements from 400cc to 1100cc, established Suzuki as a major presence in the large displacement motorcycle market at a moment when the market was being defined by Honda's CB 750 and its successors. The GS 750's double overhead cam inline-4 engine was technically competitive with the best Japanese machines of its era, and the chassis quality was sufficient to provide handling that contemporary road tests rated highly. The GS series' significance in Suzuki's commercial history is substantial. It was the platform on which the company built its international motorcycle market presence in the late 1970s and early 1980s. And the engineering knowledge accumulated through its development provided the foundation for the GXR family that followed it. The relationship between the GS series and the GSX-R is the relationship between a capable, commercially successful machine and the performance machine that it enabled. Without the GS, there would have been no engineering base from which to develop the GSX-R. And without the GSX-R, the GS would be remembered as a competent machine of its era rather than as the precursor to one of the most important production motorcycles in the history of the industry. The Hayabusa's name change across its production life is one of the more interesting pieces of international nomenclature management in the motorcycle industry. In Japan, the machine has always been called the Hayabusa. In most international markets, it was sold as the GSX 1300R Hayabusa, with the Hayabusa name supplementing rather than replacing the alphanumeric designation. In a small number of markets, the machine was sold with different displacement limitations or equipment specifications to comply with local regulations, and these variants were sometimes sold under modified designations that preserved the Hayabusa identity while noting the local specification. The consistency of the Hayabusa name across all of these variants, despite the variation in formal model designation, reflects the degree to which the name itself had become the machine's primary identity rather than the alphanumeric system. People do not say they ride a GSX 1300R. They say they ride a Hayabusa. This specific quality of a name becoming more primary than the formal designation is something that only a small number of motorcycles in any generation achieve, and the Hayabusa achieved it almost immediately after its introduction. The Suzuki RM series of two-stroke motocross machines, which Suzuki has produced since the early 1970s, has been the basis of the company's off-road racing heritage and the platform from which factory riders have competed at the highest levels of American and international motocross competition across multiple decades. The RM250 in particular, the flagship of the RM two-stroke family through its long production run, was campaigned by some of the most significant motocross riders of the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, and won championships at the AMA national level and in international competition with sufficient consistency to establish Suzuki's off-road engineering credibility. The engineering culture that produced the RM series, with its emphasis on power delivery character and the specific conditions of motocross racing and chassis setup for the specific demands of the track's obstacles and surfaces, informed the development of Suzuki's four-stroke off-road machines when the RMZ series replaced the two-stroke as the primary competition platform in the 2000s. The knowledge does not disappear when the technology changes. It transfers, carrying the understanding of what off-road competition requires from one engine architecture to the next. Michio Suzuki, the man who guided the company from loom manufacturer to motorcycle manufacturer in the early 1950s, had a specific management philosophy about product development that shaped the company's engineering culture in its most formative years. His approach was to build the best product possible at the target price point rather than the most profitable product at that price, on the basis that a product which was genuinely excellent would generate more long-term commercial value through customer loyalty and word-of-mouth recommendation than a product that was merely adequate. This philosophy, which sounds like a truism but is genuinely difficult to implement consistently when commercial pressure favors short-term margin over long-term quality, produced the specific character of reliability and mechanical correctness that made Suzuki motorcycles trusted in markets where reliability was the primary purchasing criterion. In Southeast Asia, in India, in parts of Africa and Latin America, where Suzuki motorcycles have served as primary transportation for millions of people across decades. The trust that Michio Suzuki's quality philosophy established has been one of the most commercially durable assets the company has built. The Suzuki Katana, introduced in 1981 and one of the most visually radical production motorcycles of its era, was designed not by Suzuki's in-house design team, but by Target Design, a German design firm whose principal designer Hans Muth had previously worked at BMW. The katana's angular, sculpted bodywork, with its distinctive integrated cockpit, nose-mounted instruments, and the sharp visual language that gave the machine its Japanese sword name, was unlike anything that had previously appeared on a Japanese production motorcycle and represented a specific moment in the history of motorcycle design when European industrial design aesthetics were applied to a Japanese machine with genuine commercial and cultural intent. The katana was controversial at its introduction, with some reviewers finding its visual drama excessive and others recognizing it as a genuinely new way of thinking about what a motorcycle could look like. Time has resolved the controversy. The original katana is now widely regarded as one of the most significant motorcycle designs of the 20th century, and Suzuki's decision to revive the name and the visual language in 2019 for a new machine built on the GSX S1000 platform is the best evidence available for how the original katana's design has aged. It aged beautifully, which is what genuinely original design does. The Suzuki Dr. Z400, produced since 2000 in both competition off-road and street legal forms, is the machine that the dual sport riding community treats as the reference point against which other machines in its class are measured. The Dr. Z400's combination of a 398cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine, a chassis that provides genuine off-road capability, and a mechanical reliability record that has been documented over more than 2 decades of use in conditions ranging from casual trail riding to sustained expedition travel, has produced a reputation that no competitor in the class has fully displaced despite numerous attempts. The Dr. Z400's durability is not accidental. It reflects the engineering values that Michio Suzuki established in the company's early years and that have been maintained through the successive generations of engineers who have worked on the machine. The Dr. Z400 that a rider buys today will, if maintained correctly, still be running in 20 years. Which is not something that can be said of most machines in any category, and the community of Dr. Z400 owners who understand and value this durability is one of the most loyal and most knowledgeable in the small displacement dual sport market. Suzuki's involvement in Formula One as an engine supplier, specifically through the turbocharged V6 engine that powered the Renault RS01 chassis in the 2023 and subsequent seasons under a partnership that was developed through the ARB engine program, extended the company's motorsport engineering activities beyond the two-wheel context that defines its public identity. The engineering knowledge applicable between two-wheel and four-wheel applications is more specific than the general notion of motorsport engineering would suggest. The specific challenges of fuel injection calibration, exhaust pulse management, and thermal control at sustained high loads are challenges that appear in both contexts and for which solutions developed in one context can be adapted for the other. Suzuki's accumulated expertise in managing four-cylinder engines at high-performance levels, developed through decades of MotoGP and Superbike competition, contributed specific engineering knowledge to the four-wheel program that would not have been available from a manufacturer without Suzuki's specific two-wheel racing history. The Suzuki Bandit, which appeared in 125cc, 400cc, 600cc, and 1200cc configurations across its production life from 1989 to 2016, is the most commercially significant machine that Suzuki built in the naked bike segment and one of the most important machines in establishing the practical, affordable, good-handling naked motorcycle as a distinct and valued product category in European and Asian markets. The Bandit's specific commercial success, which was sustained across nearly 3 decades of production through successive upgrades rather than through the kind of radical redesign that most long-running models undergo, reflected the degree to which the machine's fundamental formula, a 4-cylinder engine of appropriate displacement in a practical naked chassis with honest ergonomics at a price, that reflected the mechanical content without premium, served its target customer accurately and consistently. The Bandit customer wanted a motorcycle that worked well for daily use, handled the urban and rural roads of their regular riding environment with competence and reliability, and could be bought and maintained within a budget that reflected their ordinary financial circumstances. The Bandit served this customer better than most alternatives across a period long enough to make it one of the most frequently ridden motorcycles in European history. The Suzuki RGV 250, the 2-stroke 250cc road machine that Suzuki produced from 1988 to 1996 for markets where 2-stroke road bikes remained legal, is the machine that most completely represents the specific engineering achievement of making a Grand Prix-derived engine configuration available in a street-legal package at a price that ordinary enthusiasts could access. The RGV 250's V-twin 2-stroke engine was directly related to the RGV 500 Grand Prix machine that Kevin Schwantz was racing to the 1993 500cc World Championship, and the riding experience it provided, with the specific power delivery character and the high revving character of a race, derived 2-stroke in a package weighing approximately 154 kilograms, was unlike anything that a 4-stroke machine of comparable displacement could produce. The RGV 250 community that exists today, maintaining and riding these machines decades after their production ended, reflects the specific and intense quality of the riding experience they provide and the specific kind of engagement with mechanical maintenance that high-performance 2-stroke engines require and reward. These are not casual owners. They are custodians of a specific engineering tradition. The Suzuki GSX-R family's weight discipline, the commitment to keeping the machines as light as possible at any given displacement and power level, has been maintained across every generation of the GSX-R series with a consistency that reflects an engineering principle rather than a marketing decision. The original GSX R750 at 176 kilograms was lighter than most contemporary 400cc machines. Each subsequent generation of the GSX-R has maintained or improved on this weight discipline relative to its power output, and a current GSX-R 1000 at approximately 203 kilograms with 200 horsepower reflects the same fundamental philosophy applied to a machine that is twice as powerful as the original was. The weight discipline matters because at any power level, unnecessary weight reduces both acceleration and handling precision in ways that cannot be compensated for by additional power or chassis stiffness. The GSX-R family's consistently excellent power-to-weight ratios are not a consequence of having more power than the competition. They are a consequence of having less unnecessary weight, which is a more difficult engineering achievement because it requires examining every component and eliminating mass that does not serve a function, which takes more time and more engineering attention than simply adding power to whatever structure is already available. Liking this video right now costs 2 seconds and helps more people find the channel. If this is doing what it should be doing for you tonight, take those 2 seconds. The Suzuki V-Strom series, which began with the DL1000 in 2002 and has expanded to include the V-Strom 650 and V-Strom 1050 alongside the original, is Suzuki's most sustained and commercially consistent engagement with the adventure touring segment. The V-Strom 650 in particular, which has been produced with recognizable continuity since 2004, and which has built a rider community of unusual loyalty and enthusiasm, is the machine that best exemplifies the specific quality that Suzuki has consistently provided across its more successful model lines, a motorcycle that does everything its intended use requires at the highest quality level that the price point allows, without distracting from this primary purpose by pursuing either technical novelty or visual drama for their own sake. The V-Strom 650's V-twin engine, derived from the TL1000's configuration but significantly detuned for touring use, produces a specific power delivery character that V-Strom owners consistently identify as one of the machine's most valued qualities: linear, tractable, strong in the mid-range that touring riding most frequently uses, and accompanied by a V-twin sound and vibration character that provides sensory engagement without demanding the rider's full attention. The V-Strom 650 is a machine for riders who want to go somewhere specific and who value the quality of the journey over the drama of the machine. It serves this rider correctly and has done so for 20 years. The Suzuki GT750, nicknamed the Water Buffalo by enthusiasts and Le Bouilloire by French riders, was introduced in 1971 as the world's first liquid-cooled two-stroke production motorcycle, using a 738cc three-cylinder two-stroke engine in a touring-oriented chassis with a water cooling system that was, by the standards of 1971, genuinely novel in the production motorcycle context. The GT750's cooling system used a radiator mounted in the conventional automotive position at the front of the machine, with coolant circulation through the cylinder ports, managing the thermal loads that a large displacement two-stroke operating under sustained load generates more effectively than air cooling could manage at the machine's displacement and intended use. The GT750 was not a performance motorcycle in the tradition of the machines that would define Suzuki's reputation through the following decade. It was a comfortable, stable, smoothly powerful machine for the rider who wanted to cover distance with specific and unusual mechanical interest, and it developed a following that has persisted decades after its production ended. The Water Buffalo nickname, earned through a combination of the cooling system's visual presence and the machine's stable, deliberate riding character, is one of the more affectionate model nicknames in the history of the Japanese motorcycle industry. The Suzuki GSX S1000, the naked bike derived from the GSX R1000's engine and chassis, represents a specific engineering approach to the naked supernaked segment that differs from the approach of machines whose engines were designed from the outset for the naked format, where machines like the Yamaha MT-10 and Kawasaki Z1000 use engines that were developed through the naked bike brief from the beginning of the engineering project. The GSX S1000 uses an engine whose fundamental architecture was developed for racing and then adapted for the road in the GSX R1000 and subsequently further adapted for the naked format in the GSX-S. This lineage produces a machine whose engine has a specific character derived from racing development that engines designed for the naked format from the beginning do not have in the same form. The GSX S1000's specific engine character, with its strong top-end delivery and the mechanical sound quality that race-derived engines retain even in heavily adapted form, is one of the most frequently cited qualities in owner reviews of the machine, and one that provides a riding experience specifically different from naked machines whose engines carry a different design heritage. The Suzuki RG500 Gamma, produced from 1985 to 1987 as a street-legal replica of the Grand Prix machine that had won multiple world championships, is the machine that most directly represents the aspiration to make genuine factory Grand Prix technology available to ordinary riders. the RG500 square 4.2-stroke engine, its aluminum frame, and its aerodynamic full fairing were derived from the factory RGV500 race machine with minimal compromise for road use, producing a motorcycle whose character in normal road riding conditions was more race machine than road machine. The RG500 required the specific maintenance attention that a high-performance two-stroke demands, rewarded the rider who could manage its narrow power band with exhilarating performance, and was genuinely difficult to manage at the limit of its capability for riders without the specific skills that the machine's character presupposed. It was, in the most literal sense available in a production machine, a motorcycle for the rider who wanted to experience what a Grand Prix machine felt like, rather than simply to own something that looked similar to one. The Suzuki Bergman, which covers the executive scooter segment from 125cc to 650cc, is the machine through which Suzuki serves the specific needs of urban professional riders in markets where the scooter format's practical advantages are valued by a demographic whose financial resources allow the premium specification and whose riding context rewards it. The Bergman 650's 638cc parallel twin engine, which produces a power output that significantly exceeds what urban commuting requires, but that transforms the machine's motorway and open road capability into something genuinely comfortable and capable rather than merely adequate, is the specific detail that distinguishes the Bergman 650 from smaller displacement executive scooters. The Bergman 650 rider is a person who has chosen the scooter format for its practical advantages and who is unwilling to accept the motorway limitation that smaller displacement scooters impose. The machine exists because this specific combination of requirements is real and is not well served by any other product in the current market. The road is steady and the engine note is consistent, and the night is long enough for everything that still needs to be said. Let it come at its own pace. The Suzuki story has many more chapters ahead. The Suzuki SV650, introduced in 1999 and currently in its third generation, is arguably the most important motorcycle that Suzuki has produced in the past quarter century in terms of the breadth and depth of its influence on motorcycle culture and on the development of rider skills across multiple generations. The SV650's V-twin engine produces approximately 75 horsepower in a machine weighing around 197 kilograms, which is a power-to-weight ratio that is accessible to developing riders without being overwhelming and engaging for experienced riders without being insufficient. This specific combination, which is harder to achieve than the numbers suggest because it requires calibrating the engine's delivery character as well as its output, makes the SV650 one of the few motorcycles in history that serves equally well as a first serious motorcycle and as a track day machine for people who have been riding for a decade. The SV650's dominance of club racing categories in the United Kingdom and other European markets, where specific SV650 racing classes attract more entries than almost any other production-based class, is the most visible evidence of how well the machine serves the track use at which it was not originally targeted, and the community of SV650 racers who have developed their skills in these classes includes professional riders who cite the SV650 as the machine on which they learned the fundamental skills of circuit riding. The Suzuki Katana's 2019 revival deserves specific examination as a case study in how to bring a heritage name back to production without dishonoring what it originally represented. Suzuki's design team spent years studying the original Katana's design language before committing to the specific proportions and details of the new machine. With explicit attention to the design principles that Hans Muth's original expressed, rather than to the specific component details that could not be replicated on a modern machine without visual incongruity. The new katana's proportions, specifically the relationship between the fuel tank volume and the tail section length, the height of the screen relative to the instrument cluster, and the treatment of the exhaust system as a visual element are all decisions that reflect a genuine understanding of what the original design was trying to express, rather than a superficial application of vintage styling details to a contemporary platform. The result is a machine that experienced riders who knew the original find credible, and that younger riders who encounter it without the historical reference find genuinely compelling on its own terms. This is the specific outcome that a successful heritage revival needs to achieve, and the new katana achieves it. The Suzuki GSX 250R and GSX R125 represent the company's current engagement with the entry-level sports market in the configurations that regulatory environments and practical rider requirements produce in the contemporary period. The GSX 250R, designed specifically for the A2 license category in Europe and for the novice rider market in other geographies, uses a single-cylinder engine in a full-fairing sports chassis that provides the visual language of the GXR family in a package that is genuinely manageable for the least experienced segment of the rider market. The engineering philosophy behind these small machines reflects the same thinking that produced the Diopter Z400's enduring reputation, a machine built to a correct specification for its intended purpose, with the full engineering attention that the purpose deserves, rather than the minimum attention that commercial margins might suggest is sufficient. The rider who starts on a GSX 250R is learning on a machine that was built with respect for their safety and for the quality of the experience they will have in it, and this respect is detectable by anyone who rides the machine with enough awareness to perceive the difference between a machine built correctly for its purpose and one built to a cost. Suzuki's manufacturing presence in India, where the company operates through Suzuki Motorcycle India and produces motorcycles specifically calibrated for the Indian market's requirements, has made Suzuki one of the most significant motorcycle manufacturers in the world's largest two-wheeler market by volume. The machines produced for India, including the Access 125 scooter and a Gixxer series of small displacement sports bikes, are engineered specifically for Indian road conditions, Indian fuel quality, Indian ambient temperatures, and the specific riding patterns of Indian urban and semi-urban riders. The Gixxer's specific combination of 150cc single-cylinder performance, fuel economy, and visual reference to the GSXR family's design language has made it one of the most commercially successful machines in its segment across several years of production. And the engineering quality that Suzuki's India manufacturing operation maintains reflects the same quality standards that the Japanese factories apply, rather than a locally adapted version of them. The Access 125's dominance in the Indian scooter market similarly reflects a product that was engineered correctly for its specific context, rather than adapted from a product designed for a different context. The Suzuki XF650 Freewind, produced from 1997 to 2002, occupies an interesting historical position as one of the earliest production adventure motorcycles from a Japanese manufacturer to use the single-cylinder large displacement engine configuration that subsequent adventure machines from multiple manufacturers would adopt as the primary configuration for lighter, more agile machines in the category. The Freewind's 644cc single-cylinder engine, in an era when the adventure category was dominated by parallel and V-twin configurations, was a specific engineering choice that reflected Suzuki's off-road heritage through the Doctor series, and that produced a machine significantly lighter than competing twin-cylinder adventure bikes. The Freewind was not commercially successful enough to establish a lasting presence in the market, but the engineering thinking it represented anticipated the direction that the lightweight adventure category would develop in subsequent years, with machines like the Yamaha TNR 700 and a KTM 690 Adventure. Suzuki's early exploration of this engineering space was ahead of the commercial moment by more than a decade, which is a pattern in motorcycle history that repeats itself. Machines that arrive before the market is ready for them are not failures of the engineering. They are investments in the understanding of what the market will eventually want. The Suzuki GS 1000, introduced in 1978 as a development of the GS series platform with specific attention to the handling deficiencies that the GS 750 had exhibited, is the machine that first established Suzuki's reputation for chassis engineering quality alongside its reputation for engine quality. The GS 750's engine was well regarded from its introduction, but the handling of early examples was criticized as insufficiently precise for the power available. The GS 1000 addressed this through revised chassis geometry, improved suspension components, and a front-end setup that provided more feedback and more stability than its predecessor. The improvement was substantial enough that the GS 1000 won the 1978 Daytona 200 in the hands of Wes Cooley and Steve McLaughlin, which was at the time one of the most significant American motorcycle race victories that a Japanese manufacturer had achieved. The Daytona victory validated the chassis improvements and established that Suzuki was capable of competing and winning in American road racing at the highest amateur level, which was a crucial commercial demonstration in the American market that the company's largest and most important international sales territory. The Suzuki TL1000, which appeared in both the TL1000S and TL1000R configurations from 1997 to 2003, was a machine of genuine engineering ambition that was also, in its early production iterations, a machine with a specific handling characteristic that created significant controversy in the motorcycle press and among the riding public. The TL1000's 996cc twin engine was one of the most powerful and most characterful engines that Suzuki had produced for a road machine to that point, and the machine's visual drama and performance numbers attracted significant buyer interest. The handling controversy arose from a steering damper design that was found to be inadequate for the forces the machine could generate at high speeds, producing an instability that was, in the worst documented cases, genuinely dangerous. Suzuki responded with a revised steering damper and engineering corrections that addressed the underlying issue, and a controversy eventually resolved, but the TL1000's reputation in its early iterations was sufficiently damaged that the machine never fully recovered the commercial momentum its specifications suggested it deserved. The TL1000 is an example of a genuinely excellent engineering concept implemented with an inadequacy in one critical detail that overwhelmed all of the machine's genuine strengths in the public perception. The Suzuki Company's approach to motorsport has been characterized by a philosophy of participation at the highest level, withdrawal when the resources required exceed what the competitive return justifies, and re-engagement when conditions change. This cyclical approach to motorsport investment, which differs from Honda's or Yamaha's more continuous championship pursuit, reflects both Suzuki's smaller scale as a motorcycle manufacturer relative to those two companies and a genuine and consistently applied philosophy about when competitive investment serves the company's engineering development goals. Suzuki's MotoGP withdrawal after the 2011 season, its return for the 2015 season, its subsequent development of the GSX-RR to championship contention with Joan Mir's 2020 World Championship, and its second withdrawal at the end of the 2022 season are all expressions of this cyclical philosophy rather than symptoms of strategic inconsistency. Each engagement produced specific engineering development. Each withdrawal occurred when the return on continued investment was assessed as insufficient relative to the cost. This is a rational approach to motorsport investment that not every manufacturer is willing to apply, because the cultural prestige of continuous Grand Prix participation makes withdrawal psychologically difficult even when the engineering return does not justify the financial commitment. Joan Mir's 2020 MotoGP World Championship on the Suzuki GSX-RR was achieved in a season that was compressed to 15 rounds by the COVID-19 pandemic. But the specific character of Mir's championship and the quality of the riding and machinery that produced it were not diminished by the compressed calendar. Mir won not by collecting the most wins, which Fabio Quartararo achieved, but by the most consistent accumulation of strong results across the season, with the GSX-RR's specific character, which was unusually consistent across different track conditions and tire temperatures compared to other MotoGP machines of the era, providing the foundation for this consistency. The machine's consistency was the engineering outcome of Suzuki's development philosophy, which prioritized a balance of performance across the full operating range over the peak performance that some competitors achieved in specific optimal conditions. This philosophy, which was present in the GSX-RR's development from the company's return to MotoGP in 2015, was also present in the original GSX R750 of 1985, in the D-Octor Z400's durability, and in the V-Strom 650's touring reliability. The thread of engineering philosophy runs through all of these very different machines in the same way that the performance thread runs through Kawasaki's range, or the breadth thread runs through Honda's. It is what makes Suzuki's machines recognizable as Suzuki's to the experienced riders who have spent time with them. The Suzuki GSX R600. The 600cc sibling of the GSX R750 in the original GSX-R family and subsequently an independent model line has maintained a competitive presence in the World Supersport Championship across multiple decades and has produced World Supersport titles with riders including Stefan Chambon and others in the category's competitive history. The GSX R600 sustained competitiveness in a class whose regulations require close conformity between production machines and competition machines is a measure of the production machine's fundamental engineering quality. Because a machine whose road-going specification is far from optimal for competition can only be competitive in a production-based class if the rules allow modifications substantial enough to address the fundamental architecture's limitations. The GSX R600's consistent competitiveness suggests that its fundamental architecture is genuinely close to optimal for the class's demands, and the engineering choices that produce this result are the same choices that make the road-going machine engaging and rewarding for the track day rider and the enthusiast who rides it in the conditions that its specification suggests. The night is long and the facts have been steady throughout it. The Suzuki story continues to accumulate, each piece adding to a picture of a company that is quieter in its self-promotion than its Japanese competitors, and that has, as a consequence, been somewhat undervalued in the mythology of the Japanese motorcycle industry. The machines speak more clearly than the marketing, and the machines are genuinely extraordinary. The Suzuki Intruder series, which Suzuki launched in 1985 with the VS700 and VS750, and subsequently expanded across multiple displacement configurations from 400cc to 1500cc, was the company's first comprehensive engagement with the American cruiser market, and established a commercial and engineering presence in the segment that the Marauder and Boulevard families that followed it built upon. The Intruder's V-twin engine configuration, chosen specifically for the sound and vibration character that the American cruiser market associated with the format, rather than for any performance advantage over alternative configurations, demonstrated Suzuki's willingness to make engineering choices based on the experiential qualities they produced in the rider, rather than on the technical elegance of the solution. The Intruder VS1400, which appeared in 1987 and used a 1360cc V-twin engine in a low-long chassis, was the machine through which many European and American riders first experienced Suzuki in the cruiser format, and the engine's specific sound character, which was tuned with deliberate attention to the quality of the exhaust note as a rider experience rather than simply as a noise byproduct, set a standard for Suzuki's cruiser product development that the subsequent Boulevard series maintained. The Suzuki GSX 1300 BK King, produced from 2008 to 2012, was a machine that represented one of the more extreme expressions of the supernate philosophy, using the Hayabusa's 1340cc inline-4 engine in a naked chassis that made the engine's visual presence and its power output the machine's primary selling propositions without the aerodynamic assistance of the Hayabusa's fairing. The B-King's philosophical position was explicit in its design. This is an engine that happens to have a motorcycle attached to it, and the machine's visual drama was organized around the engine's physical presence rather than around conventional motorcycle styling conventions. The B-King's commercial reception was modest. Reflecting the specific nature of the appeal, not many riders want a machine whose primary riding experience is managing 175 horsepower without aerodynamic assistance at motorway speeds, and the machine's handling at high speeds, in the absence of the Hayabusa's aerodynamic stability, required a specific confidence and skill level that the market's width did not match. The B-King is not a commercially successful machine. It is an honest and extreme engineering statement that the market processed correctly when it decided that the statement was not for everyone. The Suzuki DR650, produced since 1990 with minimal mechanical change, has developed a reputation in the overlanding and long-distance adventure riding community that exceeds its specification in the same way that the KLR 650 has in the adjacent community. The DR650's specific qualities, a large displacement single-cylinder engine with strong low-end torque, a chassis geometry that provides genuine off-road capability, a fuel system that can be managed in markets where fuel quality is variable, and a mechanical simplicity that allows field repair without specialized tools, are exactly the qualities that the rider crossing remote terrain values over the more sophisticated features that technically advanced machines provide in controlled conditions. The DR650 community's deep knowledge of the machine, its specific weaknesses and their solutions, its modification options for extended range and improved capability, and its maintenance requirements across different climates and conditions, is a body of collective knowledge that has been accumulated and shared across 3 decades of use in the most demanding conditions available to a motorcycle rider. The machine is not the fastest or the most technically sophisticated available for the purpose. It is the most trusted, and trust in the context of remote travel is a more important quality than any specification number. The Suzuki TU250X, known in some markets as the GD1110 or similar designations depending on the regulatory context, is a small displacement retro-styled machine that uses a 249cc single-cylinder engine in a visual package that references the lightweight British motorcycles of the 1960s with a mechanical modernity that makes it practically useful in contemporary riding conditions. The TU250X is not a performance machine and makes no claim to be one. It is a machine for the rider who finds the visual tradition of the small British single appealing and who wants to experience that tradition in a machine that starts reliably, runs economically, and does not require the specific mechanical knowledge that maintaining a genuine 1960s British motorcycle demands. The machine's commercial niche is specific and modest, but the quality of the specific experience it provides to the specific rider who wants it reflects Suzuki's willingness to serve small market segments with genuine engineering quality rather than with minimum viable products designed to the lowest cost level that the segment's volume can justify. The Suzuki Hayabusa's successive speed records form one of the more interesting chapters of escalating competition in the motorcycle industry's history. The original 1999 Hayabusa was reported by various publications to have reached top speeds between 188 and 194 miles per hour in unconfirmed conditions, making it the fastest production motorcycle in the world at the time of its introduction. Honda responded with the CBR 1100XX Blackbird, which had held the previous top speed record, by making claims for its successor that challenged the Hayabusa's dominance. Kawasaki then entered the competition with the ZX-12R, claiming performance that approached or matched the Hayabusa's. The competition became, in the assessment of the German TV Testing Authority, a potentially dangerous public safety issue, and the major Japanese manufacturers agreed in 2000 to impose an electronic top speed limit of 186 miles per hour on their production motorcycles for markets where no legal speed limit would prevent this speed from being reached. The agreement, known informally as the Gentleman's Agreement, was a voluntary industry self-regulation that prevented what might otherwise have become an uncontrolled race toward the highest possible production motorcycle top speeds. The Hayabusa that prompted this agreement is still in production today, now electronically limited at 186 miles per hour, and remains the defining machine of the ultimate production motorcycle category. The Suzuki GSX R750's influence on motorcycle racing at every level from club competition to World Superbike can be measured through the simple observation that the Sports 750 class, which was created to accommodate the GSX R750 and its competitors in a competitive framework appropriate to their performance level, became one of the most popular and most enduring racing categories in the history of the sport. The 750cc Superbike class, at its peak through the late 1980s and into the 1990s, attracted factory teams from all four major Japanese manufacturers and from European builders who produced competitive machines in response to the Japanese dominance. The competitive quality of the racing in this class, driven by the performance levels that the GSX R750 and its successors enabled, produced some of the most technically refined production-based racing machines of the era and some of the most celebrated racing of the modern period. The racing class that the GSX R750's introduction created by providing the machine that defined it is itself one of the most consequential products of the machine's existence. Alongside the road riding experience it provided to the hundreds of thousands of riders who purchased it across its production life. Suzuki's engineering culture, as described by engineers who worked within it during the formative years of the 1980s and 1990s, placed specific emphasis on the resolution of apparent conflicts between performance and reliability through engineering precision rather than through compromise. The conventional approach to a motorcycle engine that produces high power output is to accept shortened service intervals and reduced component longevity as the cost of the performance. Because the stress levels associated with high power output reduce the working life of components compared to less stressed configurations. Suzuki's engineering culture, influenced by the same manufacturing quality tradition that Michio Suzuki had established in the loom manufacturing era, was to find engineering solutions that provided the performance without accepting the reliability reduction as necessary. The GSX-R's reputation for durability at performance levels that many competing machines could not sustain reliably reflects this culture, and the specific engineering choices that produced it in bearing specifications, material selection, lubrication system design, and thermal management are choices that required more engineering effort than accepting the performance-reliability trade-off would have required. The result was machines that performed at race-level specifications and lasted at road machine levels of longevity. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel. These long, honest rides through the history of machines worth knowing are here every time you need them. Subscribe now. The Suzuki Address series of 50cc and 110cc scooters. Produced primarily for Asian markets where small displacement scooters serve as the primary form of personal transportation for urban populations, represents Suzuki's most commercially significant product in the global two-wheeler market by unit volume, and the product through which most of the world's Suzuki riders have their primary experience of the brand. The Address scooter is not a machine that appears in motorcycle enthusiast publications. It is a machine that appears on the streets of Bangkok, Jakarta, Ho Chi Minh City, and Mumbai in numbers that, accumulated across a decade of production, exceed the entire production volume of the GSX-R family many times over. The engineering that makes the Address reliable and economical in the conditions of Asian urban riding, including high ambient temperatures, stop-start traffic, variable fuel quality, and the specific maintenance patterns of riders who may service the machine themselves with basic tools in locations without specialized facilities, reflects the same engineering values that produce the GSX-R's reliability at high performance levels. The scale is different. The quality philosophy is the same. The Suzuki GSX S750, using the GSX-R 750's engine in a naked chassis, provides a specific example of the transfer of sports bike engine character to the naked format in a way that preserves the engine's fundamental qualities while making the machine's overall character more accessible to a wider range of riders and riding conditions. The GSX-R 750's engine, in the generation that the GSX S750 uses, produces a power delivery that is more linear and more accessible in the lower portion of the rev range than the earlier GSX R750's higher revving configuration, reflecting the evolution of the sports bike toward engines that serve the road as well as the track. In the GSX S750's naked chassis, this engine character translates into a riding experience that experienced riders describe as one of the most engaging in the middleweight naked class for the specific quality of its throttle response and the directness of the connection between the rider's input and the machine's behavior. The GSX S750 is not the most powerful machine in its class, nor the most electronically sophisticated. It is one of the most honest, which is a specific quality that reflects the engineering tradition the machine inherits. The Suzuki Jimny, the company's small off-road vehicle that has been continuously produced since 1970, is not a motorcycle, but is worth mentioning in a story about Suzuki because it illustrates the same engineering principle that runs through the motorcycle range. The best product for a specific purpose is one that understands that purpose with complete accuracy and serves it without distraction from irrelevant considerations. The Jimny's specific purpose is to go places that larger, more expensive four-wheel drive vehicles also go, using less fuel and costing less money at the cost of the comfort and refinement that the larger vehicles provide on paved roads. This specific trade-off, accepted honestly by the engineering team and communicated honestly to the buyer, is what makes the Jimny excellent at what it does and what has sustained it in production for more than half a century. The same engineering philosophy produces the DR 650, the V Strom 650, and the DR Z 400. The purpose is different. The clarity of purpose is the same. The Suzuki Hayabusa's second generation, introduced in 2021 after a period without significant update following the 2013 model year changes, used the opportunity of the full redesign to address emissions regulations that would have terminated the original machine's production without the development investment, while maintaining the fundamental character that had made the first generation the iconic machine it became. The second generation Hayabusa's engine produces slightly less peak power than the final version of the first generation machine, but delivers it through a more sophisticated fuel injection and throttle control system that provides better rideability across a wider range of conditions. The bodywork, redesigned to meet updated aerodynamic and aesthetic standards while maintaining the visual identity of the original design, was the most sensitive aspect of the redesign. Changing the shape of a machine whose shape is the most recognizable aspect of its identity is a design challenge that few machines create. Suzuki's designers succeeded in producing a second-generation Hayabusa that is immediately recognizable as a Hayabusa while being distinguishably different from its predecessor, which is the correct outcome for a redesign of a machine whose identity is primarily visual. The Suzuki RF900R, produced from 1993 to 1999 as a sport touring machine, bridging the gap between the GSX-R's track focus and the Bandit's practical versatility, was a machine whose specific combination of GSX-R derived engine performance in a half-faired, ergonomically comfortable chassis, served a specific European market of riders who valued the quality of long-distance travel as much as the quality of mountain road performance. The RF900R's engine, derived from the GSX R900 project that Suzuki eventually abandoned in favor of the GSX R750's continued development, was a sophisticated four-cylinder unit that produced generous power with a delivery character better suited to sustain road use than the more highly strung GSX-R engines of the same era. The RF900R has not achieved the cult status of the GSX-R family or the wide recognition of the Hayabusa, but it served its specific purpose with a quality and consistency that its owners, who rode it extensively across European and international touring routes, still discuss with specific affection decades after the machine's production ended. The Suzuki RMZ 450, the company's flagship four-stroke motocross machine and the successor to the RM250 in competitive terms, has been a consistently competitive machine in the AMA 450cc Motocross Championship across the period since its introduction in 2005. Ryan Dungey won AMA championships on factory Suzuki RMZ 450 machinery in 2010. and the machine's competitive development across subsequent seasons reflected the continuing investment in off-road engineering that Suzuki's racing philosophy demands. The RMZ 450's development has required specific solutions to the thermal management challenges that four-stroke motocross engines face. The sustained high-load operation of a motocross race, with its continuous acceleration, braking, and jumping sequences, generates thermal loads in the engine that liquid cooling manages, but that require careful attention to cooling system design, oil system capacity, and combustion chamber geometry to handle reliably across the duration of a 35-minute moto. These solutions, developed through factory team racing and through the accumulated rider feedback of the AMA competitive season, inform the production machine specification in the same way that MotoGP development informs the GSXR's specification. The Suzuki VL1500 Intruder and its successor, the Boulevard C90, which used a 1462 CCV twin engine in a machine whose physical proportions were genuinely large by the standards of any motorcycle, regardless of displacement category, represented Suzuki's ambition in the large displacement cruiser segment and its willingness to compete with the American market's dominant machines on the basis of mechanical quality rather than on the basis of cultural heritage. The Boulevard C90's engine, in its specific character, produced a sound and vibration experience that its owners consistently described as one of the machine's most valued qualities, a deep, steady, low-frequency rumble that was distinctive in the cruiser landscape and that reflected specific attention to the exhaust system's tuning as an experience element rather than simply as an emissions management system. The machine's physical presence, with its sweeping fenders, wide handlebar, and elongated proportion, communicated its identity at a distance in the same way that large American cruisers communicate theirs, and this visual communication was backed by a mechanical quality that the riding experience confirmed to buyers who chose Suzuki over the more culturally established alternatives. The Suzuki LT series of ATVs and the Quadsport ZR50 and LT Z90 youth ATVs represent Suzuki's engagement with the recreational off-road four-wheel market with the same engineering values that the Kelex and Dr. series bring to the two-wheel off-road context. The LT Z400 Quadsport, which has been the company's flagship sporting ATV since its introduction in 2003, uses a 398cc liquid-cooled single-cylinder engine in a chassis whose suspension and handling geometry reflect the specific demands of sport ATV riding in a way that the engineering teams responsible for the machine understand from direct experience with competition use. The LTZ400's sustained presence in the competitive sport ATV category, where it has been campaigned in G9cc and works racing alongside factory-supported teams, validates the production machine's fundamental engineering quality in the same way that the RMZ 450 motocross success validates the production dirt bike's quality. The Suzuki GSX R1000R, the highest specification version of the current GSX R1000, uses a variable valve timing system derived from Suzuki's MotoGP development, making it the first production sports bike to use variable valve timing as a standard feature. The system, called Suzuki Racing Variable Valve Timing, or SRVVT, adjusts the intake cam timing across a range of engine speeds to optimize the engine's breathing characteristics at both low and high RPM, providing better off-peak tractability without sacrificing the peak power delivery that the high RPM specification produces. The engineering significance of implementing variable valve timing in a production motorcycle engine is substantial, The system must operate reliably in the specific thermal and vibration environment of a motorcycle engine, which is more demanding than the automotive environment where variable valve timing systems have been standard for many years. Suzuki's success in implementing the system in a production machine reflects both the engineering capability developed through MotoGP racing and the manufacturing quality required to produce a reliable, variable valve timing mechanism in high-performance motorcycle production volumes. The night has traveled a long way now, and the Suzuki story has filled it well. The facts have arrived steadily, each one a piece of a picture that is larger and more interesting than any individual piece suggests. There is still more road ahead, and the night is patient enough to hold all of it. The Suzuki GW250 Inazuma, produced since 2011 primarily for the Asian and European markets as a beginner and commuter machine, uses a parallel twin engine in a conventional naked bike format and represents Suzuki's engagement with the accessible entry-level market at a displacement that serves both the practical needs of the commuter and the aspirational needs of the developing enthusiast. The Inazuma name, which means lightning in Japanese, was used by Suzuki on performance machines in the 1990s, and its application to the entry-level GW250 reflects the brand's understanding that aspirational naming serves the entry-level customer by providing a sense of connection to the performance tradition of the brand. Even at a displacement and power level where the performance claim is modest by the tradition's standards. The GW250's mechanical quality, which reflects the same engineering discipline that the larger machines embody at proportionally appropriate dimensions, has made it a trusted commuter and learner machine in markets where its displacement is the practical sweet spot between the largest scooter and the smallest sports machine. The Suzuki GSX-R's impact on motorcycle fashion and culture in the 1980s was as significant as its impact on engineering standards. The GSX-R 750 introduced the full race fairing as a production motorcycle standard at a time when full fairings were associated exclusively with race machines or with the touring machines whose fairing purpose was wind protection rather than aerodynamic performance. The GSX-R's fairing communicated a racing identity visually in a way that no previous production machine had achieved with equivalent credibility, and the subsequent adoption of full racing fairings across the sports motorcycle segment by every major manufacturer reflects the degree to which the GSX-R established the visual vocabulary of the modern sports motorcycle as completely as it established the mechanical specification. The rider who bought a GSX R750 in 1985 was buying into a specific identity: the track day rider, the circuit racer, the person whose relationship with the road was defined by performance rather than by practicality, and the visual language of the machine communicated this identity to everyone who saw it in a way that no previous road machine had achieved with the same precision. Suzuki's involvement in offshore powerboat racing, which has been sustained across several decades through the provision of outboard motors to competitive teams in various offshore classes, extends the company's motorsport presence into a marine context that is visible in the quality of the GSX-R's engine cooling system and in the thermal management philosophy that Suzuki has developed through both marine and motorcycle competition. The offshore powerboat environment subjects outboard motors to thermal loads, vibration intensities, and corrosion challenges that exceed what any motorcycle engine faces, and the engineering solutions developed for marine competition application have informed motorcycle engine engineering in dimensions including cooling system efficiency, material selection for corrosion resistance, and the design of lubricant circuits that function correctly in the extreme attitude changes that both a powerboat in heavy seas and a motorcycle at high lean angles experience. These engineering connections between marine and motorcycle applications are part of the same cross-category engineering ecosystem that Yamaha and Honda exhibit through their respective marine and motorcycle programs. The Suzuki RG250 Gamma, a two-stroke road machine produced from 1983 to 1987, preceded the RGV250 in the company's line of street-legal race replicas and established the engineering tradition of making Grand Prix technology available in road-legal form that the RGV250 subsequently developed more completely. The RG250's parallel twin two-stroke engine was less radical in its technical architecture than the RGV250's V-twin would be, but it provided a genuine two-stroke sports riding experience in a road-legal package that was both accessible and engaging for the experienced enthusiasts who were its primary buyers. The RG250's place in Suzuki's history is that of the machine that demonstrated the commercial and engineering viability of the race replica format before the RGV250 made it a landmark achievement, and the engineering lessons of the RG250's development in two-stroke engine reliability at high performance levels and in chassis setup for the specific demands of two-stroke power delivery informed the much more ambitious RGV250 that followed it. The Suzuki Carry, the company's K-truck and van product that has been produced since 1961, is the commercial vehicle counterpart of the Jimny in the company's product range, a machine of specific purpose built to the minimum dimensions required by Japanese K vehicle regulations and optimized for the specific work requirements of rural Japanese farmers and small business operators. The Carry's engineering, like the Jimny's and like the best of Suzuki's motorcycles, reflects a complete understanding of the purpose the machine serves and a commitment to serving that purpose with the best available engineering at the allowed price point. This consistency of engineering philosophy across product categories as different as the GSX R1000R and a Carry truck is the most distinctive characteristic of Suzuki as an engineering organization, and it is the characteristic that makes Suzuki's products across all categories more honest and more specifically appropriate to their purposes than products from manufacturers whose engineering culture is less consistent across their product range. The Suzuki GSX-R's contribution to the development of motorcycle safety technology is less often recognized than its contribution to performance, but it is genuine and specific. The GSX-R's dominance in track day use across multiple decades has made it the most commonly used machine at organized track day events in multiple countries. And the accumulated data about the specific conditions under which GSX-R crashes occur and the specific injury patterns they produce has been a significant input to the development of track day safety protocols, protective equipment specifications, and circuit safety improvements. The riders who have crashed GSX-Rs at track days have, through the analysis of their crashes by safety researchers, contributed to the improvement of motorcycle safety infrastructure that benefits riders of all machines. This is not a planned contribution. It is the inadvertent consequence of a large population of similar machines being used in a controlled environment where the outcomes of incidents can be systematically studied, but it is a real contribution, and it deserves recognition alongside the machine's contribution to performance standards. The night is steady, and the engine keeps running. The Suzuki story is the story of a company that began with looms and found in machines a permanent vocation, and the machines it has built across more than 7 decades of production are the most honest possible account of what that vocation means. They are honest in the engineering sense that matters most. They do what they claim to do, They last as long as they should last, and they are built with the attention that the person who will rely on them deserves. This is Suzuki's specific contribution to the world of motorcycles, and it is a contribution that the specification sheets do not fully capture, but that the riders who have depended on Suzuki machines across decades of use understand without needing it explained. The Suzuki GSX S1000 GT, the sport touring derivative of the GSX S1000 introduced in 2022, represents Suzuki's most current expression of the idea that a performance engine can be packaged in a touring-oriented machine without the engine's character being compromised by the touring brief. The GSX S1000 GT uses the GSX R1000's engine architecture, substantially retuned for road use in the tradition of the entire GSXS family, in a half-faired chassis with a larger windscreen, a more comfortable seat, and luggage mounting provisions that make it genuinely practical for extended travel rather than merely tolerable for it. The machine's electronics package, including cornering abs, traction control, and multiple riding modes, reflects the contemporary expectation of electronic sophistication in a premium sport touring machine, and the calibration of these systems reflects the same philosophy that has guided Suzuki's electronics implementation across the GSXR and GSXS families: transparency to the rider rather than intervention that the rider perceives as the machine overriding their inputs. The GSX S1000 GT is not the most powerful or the most equipment-laden machine in the sport touring segment. It is one of the most honest in its communication between the machine and the rider, which is the quality that distinguishes Suzuki's best products across the full breadth of the range. The Suzuki Bandit 1200, in its later iterations with fuel injection and revised chassis geometry, was a machine that Suzuki maintained in production long after most manufacturers would have replaced it with a more technically sophisticated successor, reflecting the same engineering logic that sustained the Bandit 600 and the DR 650. A correct product for its purpose does not require fundamental reinvention simply because time has passed. The Bandit 1200's engine, an air-cooled four-cylinder of generous displacement and honest power delivery, provided the specific character that the Bandit's large displacement customer wanted at a price that was genuinely accessible by the standards of the market segment. The machine's sustained presence in the Suzuki lineup through the 2000s, in a period when competitors were introducing technically sophisticated replacements for their comparable models at regular intervals, was a commercial choice that reflected an honest assessment of what the Bandit's customer actually wanted, rather than what the motorcycle press was celebrating as technically progressive. The customer who bought a Bandit 1200 in 2006 was not looking for the latest technology. They were looking for what the Bandit 1200 provided, and Suzuki continued providing it for as long as the regulatory environment allowed. The Suzuki V-Strom 1050, which replaced the V-Strom 1000 in 2020 with a displacement increase, revised engine tune, and updated electronics, extended the V-Strom family into territory where the adventure touring premium segment demanded electronic sophistication comparable to what the BMW GS and Africa Twin provided, while maintaining the fundamental V-twin character that had distinguished the V-Strom from the inline four competitors in its market. The V-Strom 1050 XT, with its wire spoke wheels, revised suspension specification, and enhanced electronics including hill hold control and the full suite of cornering abs and traction control modes, represented the most complete version of the V-Strom concept that Suzuki had produced, and its reception in the adventure touring segment reflected the recognition that the machine had earned through 2 decades of V-Strom development and the loyalty of the community that had. Formed around the original DL1000, the V-Strom 1050 is a machine that rewards the rider who has spent time understanding what Suzuki's V-twin character provides and who has chosen to remain with it through the successive generations of development that have refined and extended its capabilities without changing its fundamental identity. The sound that a Suzuki V-twin produces at moderate revs and moderate throttle, cruising on a secondary road through countryside that the road is appropriate for, is one of the more distinctively satisfying engine notes available in the contemporary motorcycle market. And the reason for this satisfaction is not simply the V-twin configuration, but the specific tuning choices that Suzuki has made. In the exhaust and intake systems of the V-Strom and SV families, the V-twin note is deeper and more rhythmic than the parallel twin's higher frequency buzz, and Suzuki's specific calibration of the exhaust pulse timing and the intake resonance in these machines produces a sound that fills the listening space around the machine without overwhelming it, providing a sensory backdrop to the riding experience that adds to its quality rather than simply accompanying it. This sound is not accidental. It is engineered, and the specific choices that produce it reflect the same attention to the experiential qualities of the riding experience that the best Suzuki machines apply to every dimension of the interaction between machine and rider. The night has given everything it had, and the Suzuki story has filled it with the specific quality of a company whose engineering is quieter and more honest than its marketing, whose machines reward attention more than they reward proximity, and whose history is longer and more interesting than the limited attention it receives in the standard narratives of the Japanese motorcycle industry. Suggests there is more ahead in the second half of this ride, and the road keeps going for as long as you need it. The Suzuki GSX R750's legacy in the specific category of club racing it helped create is measurable in the most direct possible way. The number of race meetings that feature a dedicated GSXR or Sport 750 class across European, Australian, and American club racing circuits in any given year exceeds the number of meetings that feature dedicated classes for any other single production motorcycle model. This is not a marketing claim. It is a verifiable fact about how motorcycle racing organizers have responded to the sustained presence of a large and enthusiastic population of GSXR riders who want to compete against each other in machines that are recognizably similar in specification. The GSXR class exists because the GSXR community demanded it. And the community demanded it because the machines provided a sufficient combination of performance, affordability, and mechanical homogeneity to make class racing more interesting than open competition would have been. No other machine in the history of production-based motorcycle racing has generated this specific outcome with the same breadth and the same longevity. The Suzuki Hayabusa's position in drag racing culture, specifically in the quarter-mile motorcycle drag racing community in the United States, is one of the most specific and most thoroughly documented relationships between a production motorcycle and a competitive motorsport category in the history of the sport. From the first year of the Hayabusa's production availability, drag racers recognized that the machine's combination of extreme aerodynamic efficiency, large displacement engine output, and the structural integrity of its chassis provided a foundation for quarter-mile competition that no previous production machine had offered with the same combination of qualities. The Hayabusa drag racing community developed a specific knowledge base about the machine's modification potential, its structural limits, and the specific engineering approaches that maximized its quarter-mile performance, And this knowledge base accumulated and was shared across the community in ways that produced successive records and successive technical achievements across the decades of the machine's production. A stock Hayabusa runs the quarter mile in approximately 9.7 seconds, in the hands of the drag racing community's most dedicated members, with modifications that use the production machine as a starting point rather than as a finished product. Hayabusa-based machines have run times that exist in a performance universe entirely different from the stock machine's already extraordinary baseline. The Hayabusa is the foundation on which some of the fastest two-wheel quarter-mile times in history have been built, and a community that built them is one of the more interesting subcultures in American motorsport. The Suzuki SV650's dominance of the British club racing scene, specifically in the Superstock 600 and Thundersport classes that provide the competitive entry point for amateur racers who want to compete on production-based machinery at circuit level, is a statistical fact that the results sheets of British club racing document comprehensively. In any given British club racing season, the proportion of SV650 entries in the classes where it is eligible substantially exceeds the proportion of any other single model, and the racing that results is recognized by experienced observers of club motorsport as some of the most closely contested and most technically educational competition available in British motorcycle racing. The SV650's V-twin engine, with its specific torque delivery and the particular demands it places on the rider's throttle management technique at corner exits, has produced a generation of British club racers whose corner exit technique has been specifically developed in response to the engine's character, and the riders who have progressed from SV650 club racing to professional competition in the British Superbike series cite the specific skills developed on the SV650 as foundational to their subsequent professional performance. The machine is the best teacher available at its price point, and the teachers that produce the best prepared students are the ones that are most valued in any educational context. The Suzuki GSX-R family's relationship with the World Superbike Championship across the generations is a relationship of consistent competitive presence rather than the specific dominant periods that Kawasaki and Ducati have enjoyed. Suzuki's factory team has won Superbike championships with Stefan Chambon and others, and private teams running customer specification machines have consistently filled competitive positions across the championship's history. But the GSX-R's specific contribution to the World Superbike narrative is the sustained competitive relevance of the production machine that enables both factory and private teams to be genuinely competitive. A machine that is competitive in factory hands, but that requires factory-level resources to be competitive at any level, does not serve the competitive community that makes a world championship meaningful. The GSX-R's fundamental specification has consistently been close enough to the competitive optimum that privateer teams, with budgets that are a fraction of the factory effort, can finish in the top 10 of World Superbike races with customer machines. This sustained accessibility of competitive performance across the championship's full competitive spectrum is one of the GSX-R's most significant contributions to the sport's health, and it is a contribution that the championship wins of factory teams do not fully capture. The Suzuki Inazuma 250 of 2012, distinct from the earlier Inazuma 400 of the 1990s, was designed specifically for the emerging economies of Southeast Asia and India, where a parallel twin 250cc machine at an accessible price represented an aspirational step up from the single-cylinder commuters that the majority of the riding population used. The Inazuma 250's reception in these markets, where it was sold under various designations including the GW250F and in some configurations as the GSX 250R, reflected the specific understanding that Suzuki had developed of what aspirational ownership means in markets where financial constraints make the distance between what a rider can afford and what they aspire to own more explicit than in premium markets. The machine's visual language, which referenced the GSXR family's sports aesthetic in a platform that was genuinely accessible to the target demographic, provided the aspirational connection that made the machine desirable beyond what its mechanical specification alone would have generated. This design intelligence, using the visual language of the performance tradition to serve the aspirational needs of the accessible market, is one of the more sophisticated product positioning approaches in the contemporary Japanese motorcycle industry. The Suzuki Katana of 1981 appeared in a market context where the most expensive and most prestigious production motorcycles available were machines whose visual language was relatively conservative, taking the functional requirements of the motorcycle as their design brief and producing forms that were handsome and purposeful, but that did not challenge the conventional understanding of what a motorcycle should look like. The Katana challenged everything. Its integrated cockpit, which placed the instruments, headlamp, and fairing into a single visual unit that had no precedent in production motorcycle design, forced a revision of the design vocabulary that the entire industry subsequently incorporated in various forms across the following decade. The angular forms that Hans Muth specified for the Katana, which referenced the industrial design aesthetic of the German Bauhaus tradition in ways that Japanese motorcycle design had not previously engaged with, produced a machine that looked like it had been drawn rather than evolved, with shapes that had the deliberate clarity of designed objects rather than the organic accumulation of engineering compromises. The Katana's design was, in the most specific sense, an artistic statement about what a motorcycle could look like, and its commercial success confirmed that the market was ready for this kind of statement, even if the industry had not previously offered it. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel. These long rides through the history of the machines you care about are here every night, and the channel grows one listener at a time. Subscribe now. The Suzuki RMZ250, the 4-stroke 250cc motocross machine, has been one of the more technically competitive machines in the AMA 250cc class across the years since its introduction, and represents the extension of Suzuki's off-road engineering capability to the class, where the physical demands on rider and machine are among the most intense in any motorsport discipline. The 250cc motocross class requires a machine that delivers its maximum power output in the most responsive and most controllable form possible in the smallest and lightest package that engineering can produce. Because the physical demands of riding a 250cc motocross bike at professional pace for a 35-minute moto require the rider to receive maximum information through the machine's controls while managing forces that would be excessive on a heavier or less precisely calibrated machine. The RMZ250 specific engineering, from its chassis geometry that centralizes mass toward the machine's center to its engine-specific power delivery character that rewards the attacking riding style of elite motocross, reflects decades of accumulated understanding of what the 250cc motocross machine needs to be and how it needs to behave in the conditions where it is used. The Suzuki GSXR's specific contribution to the motorcycle safety equipment industry, through the demand it created for track-quality protective equipment at accessible prices, is one of the less often recognized but genuinely significant indirect effects of the machine's commercial success. Before the GSXR created a large population of track day riders who needed genuine protection for genuine circuit use, the market for motorcycle protective equipment was dominated by products designed for road use, where the impact speeds and surface types that riders encountered in accidents were significantly different from the impact conditions of a circuit crash. The GSXR's dominance of the track day market through the late 1980s and 1990s created a sustained demand for leather suits, gloves, and boots designed to the specific protection requirements of circuit riding, and this demand funded the development of protective equipment technology that subsequently improved the protection available to road riders as the track day equipment standards were applied to road-going products. The riders who wear high-quality protective equipment on the road today are partly beneficiaries of the standards that the GSXR track day community's demands established. The Suzuki Doctor Series, which traces its lineage from the original DR400 of 1980 through successive generations of large displacement trail and dual sport machines to the current DR650, represents one of the most sustained commitments to a specific product philosophy in the history of Japanese motorcycle manufacturing. The Doctor philosophy, which can be stated simply as the largest displacement single-cylinder engine in the lightest possible chassis, with the longest possible suspension travel and the most durable possible construction, has not changed in its essentials across more than 40 years of production. The machines have been updated, their engines refined, their suspension improved, their fuel delivery modernized from carburetors to fuel injection in the most recent generation, but the fundamental philosophy of what a Doctor motorcycle is and what it is for has remained constant. This constancy of purpose across 4 decades of changing market conditions, changing competitive alternatives, and changing regulatory requirements is itself a form of integrity that the motorcycle market rarely rewards directly, but that the community of Doctor riders values specifically and deeply. The DR650 that a rider purchases today is the direct philosophical descendant of the DR400 that a rider purchased in 1980, and the continuity of purpose across the 40-year interval is the most honest possible expression of what a motorcycle manufacturer believes about what its products are for. The Suzuki Hayabusa's body panels in the current generation of the machine are produced through a multi-step painting process that applies multiple layers of clear coat over the base color in a way that produces a depth of color not achievable through single-stage painting processes. This specific attention to paint quality on a machine that many of its buyers use as a canvas for customization, and that a significant proportion of its buyers never modify at all, but simply appreciate as a visual object as much as a riding machine, reflects Suzuki's understanding that the Hayabusa's relationship with its owners extends beyond the riding experience to the experience of ownership, which includes the experience of looking at the machine and the experience of having others look at it. A machine whose purpose includes being seen as well as being ridden requires a paint quality that stands scrutiny at the viewing distance rather than only at the passing distance, and the Hayabusa's finish quality has consistently been among the best available on any production motorcycle at its price point. The Suzuki V-Strom 650 XT. The adventure specification version of the V-Strom 650, with wire spoke wheels, crash bars, and a revised suspension setup for mixed surface use, represents the point in the V-Strom family's development at which Suzuki acknowledged that the machine was being used in conditions that the standard version specification was not fully optimized for, and that A. Specific variant addressing these conditions served the customer more honestly than a single specification machine that compromised in all directions. The X wire spoke wheels in particular, which provide greater impact absorption on rough surfaces and allow the fitting of tubeless tires in most configurations, reflect the specific feedback of V-Strom owners who had discovered through use that the standard alloy wheel's rigidity was a limitation in the off-road conditions that the machine's visual and mechanical character invited. The X variant served this customer correctly, and its commercial success confirmed that the customer population using the V-Strom in these conditions was large enough to justify the specific product investment. Liking this video tells the algorithm that this kind of content belongs in front of people who need it. If the night is going the way it should, take the 2 seconds. The Suzuki GSX 250R, the entry-level fully fared sports machine that Suzuki produces for markets including Australia, India, and Southeast Asia, is the machine through which the next generation of Suzuki sports bike riders has its first experience of the GSX-R visual language and the sports machine riding position. The GSX 250R's engine, a 248cc parallel twin that is modest in its power output, is calibrated with the same attention to throttle response and power delivery character that the larger GSX-R engines receive, producing a machine whose riding character reflects the GSX-R philosophy at a scale appropriate for the entry-level rider. This philosophical continuity across displacement categories, from the GSX 250R through the GSX R125, in markets where that machine is sold to the full GSX-R family, is a form of brand coherence that reflects Suzuki's understanding that the rider who begins their relationship with the brand on a GSX 250R is establishing expectations that the brand will need to continue meeting as the rider progresses to larger machines. The Suzuki GS650G Katana and GS1000G Katana, which use the Katana name on machines based on the GS platform, with Katana styling details, but without the full Hans-Muth design treatment of the original, represent the most commercially pragmatic expression of the Katana identity in Suzuki's product range. These machines were produced for markets where the full Katana's price was a barrier to commercial success, and where the visual association with the Katana's design language provided commercial value that the GS designation alone would not have generated. The pragmatic use of the Katana name on these models is sometimes criticized as a dilution of the original design's specific achievement, but it also reflects a genuine commercial intelligence about how brand names carry value and how that value can be distributed across a product range without being fully exhausted by any single application. The original Katana's design achievement remained intact regardless of how many GS-based machines borrowed its name, because the original's specific design quality was not diminished by association with machines that referenced it without replicating it. The Suzuki GSX-R's impact on motorcycle insurance markets, specifically in the United Kingdom, where the GSX-R family was among the first motorcycles to be categorized at the highest insurance group rating, reflects the degree to which the machine's genuine performance capabilities were recognized by the insurance industry as representing a materially different risk profile from anything previously available in the production motorcycle market. The insurance industry's early categorization of the GSX-R at the highest risk tier was based partly on the machine's actual performance data and partly on the anticipation of how riders who purchased the machine would use it, and the claims experience in the years following the categorization confirmed that the risk assessment was accurate. The consequence of this high insurance categorization was that the GSX-R's effective cost of ownership was substantially higher than its purchase price alone suggested, which structured the market for the machine toward older, more experienced riders who could qualify for more favorable insurance terms. This insurance-mediated market structuring may have contributed to the GSX-R's specific association with experienced rather than novice riders, which is itself a safety-positive outcome that the insurance industry's risk assessment inadvertently produced. The Suzuki Gladius, produced from 2009 to 2015, was an entry-level V-twin naked machine that used the SV650's engine in a chassis with different ergonomics and a visual character more explicitly aimed at new riders than the SV650's more performance-oriented presentation. The Gladius's reception was mixed. The machine's technical qualities were generally good, but the visual design, which was more deliberately styled for accessibility and approachability than the SV650's straightforward naked format, was criticized by some as trying too hard to be non-threatening in a way that felt condescending to the riders it was aimed at. The Gladius's relatively short production run reflects both this design reception and the discovery that the SV650's accessible qualities, combined with its honest performance presentation, serve the new rider market better than a specifically entry-focused derivative of the same platform. The SV650 already was the accessible machine. The Gladius tried to make it more accessible in ways that the market did not find more valuable. The lesson is specific. Accessibility in a motorcycle is better achieved through mechanical calibration and ergonomic honesty than through visual signals that communicate accessibility as a primary design brief, because the rider who is buying their first serious motorcycle wants a machine that takes them seriously, not one that suggests it has been designed specifically for people who might struggle. The Suzuki GSX S750, which has been Suzuki's best value proposition in the middleweight naked segment across several model years, maintains a specific competitive position in a segment where the Yamaha MT-07, Honda CB650R, and Kawasaki Z650 all compete for the same buyer demographic. The GSX S750's specific advantage in this competitive landscape is the engine character it inherited from the GSX R750, a four-cylinder engine whose power delivery and mechanical character reflect racing development in ways that the parallel twin competitors' engines, however excellent in their own terms, do not replicate. This character difference, which is specific and real rather than a matter of preference between equivalent alternatives, has sustained the GSX SN750's competitive position in the segment despite the machine's older chassis architecture and less comprehensive electronics package relative to some competitors. The engine character argument is, in the end, the same argument the GSX R750 made when it appeared. The specific quality of the experience the engine provides justifies the machine's existence independent of whether its other specifications are the most current in the class. The Suzuki company's relationship with the Indian market, which has become one of the most commercially significant in the global motorcycle industry, reflects a specific long-term commitment that Suzuki made to the Indian market in 1982 when it established Maruti Suzuki with the Indian government to produce automobiles. The automobile partnership, which was transformative for the Indian auto market and which made Maruti Suzuki one of the most commercially successful automotive ventures in Indian history, established Suzuki's manufacturing and distribution infrastructure in India in a way that has benefited the motorcycle business substantially. The brand recognition, the dealer network, and the manufacturing knowledge that Suzuki accumulated through the automobile venture were available to the motorcycle operation when it established Suzuki Motorcycle India as a separate entity. And this inheritance gave the motorcycle business a head start in market development that new entrants to the Indian motorcycle market without the same foundation could not replicate. The Indian motorcycle market's importance to Suzuki's global commercial position today is partly the consequence of a strategic decision made 40 years ago in a different product category, which is itself evidence of how long the time horizons of the most consequential industrial decisions actually are. The Suzuki Hayabusa community, which exists across multiple continents and which organizes its own specific events, runs its own dedicated publications, and maintains its own knowledge base about the machine's modification potential and ownership experience, is one of the most internationally coherent single-model motorcycle communities in existence. The specific combination of the Hayabusa's performance ceiling, which provides a benchmark that the community's members can work toward incrementally rather than reaching quickly, and the machine's visual identity, which is sufficiently distinctive that Hayabusa owners recognize each other on the road in a way that riders of more common machines do not, has produced a community identity that is strong enough to sustain organized gatherings in multiple countries and to generate a continuous flow of owner-produced content about the machine. This community did not form because Suzuki organized it. It formed because the machine provided something specific enough and valuable enough to the people who owned it that they sought each other out to share the experience, which is the most genuine possible foundation for a product community. The Suzuki GSX R750 relationship with the concept of total race concept, which was the design philosophy that Suzuki's engineering team articulated when developing the original machine, is worth examining specifically because it represents an unusually clear and honest statement of what a motorcycle manufacturer was trying to achieve with a specific product. Total race concept meant, in the engineering team's usage, a machine in which every component was designed primarily for racing use rather than for road use, with road legal compliance achieved as a secondary consideration rather than as the primary brief. This philosophy, which contrasted with the conventional approach of designing a road machine and adding performance capability, produced a machine whose fundamental character was genuinely different from what the conventional approach would have yielded, and the specific racing-first character of the original GSX R750 is what gave it the quality that defined the category. When manufacturers subsequently produced machines that were designed as road bikes with track capability rather than as track bikes with road legality, experienced riders could detect the difference through the riding experience, and the original GSX-R's total race concept remained the reference point against which subsequent machines were measured. The night is long, and the Suzuki story keeps filling it. Let the facts arrive at their own pace, each one a piece of a longer story about a company whose engineering is more thoughtful than its marketing suggests, and whose machines are more interesting than their market position in the motorcycle world's conventional hierarchy would predict. The Suzuki GSX R1000's development across its successive generations illustrates the tension that exists in the development of any benchmark machine between maintaining the identity that made the original significant and incorporating the engineering advances that subsequent development has made available. The original 2001 GSX R1000 was fast and light. The 2005 generation was faster. The 2007 generation addressed handling improvements. The 2009 generation further refined the balance. The 2012 generation updated the electronics. The 2017 generation, which represented the most comprehensive redesign in the model's history, incorporated the variable valve timing, traction control sophistication, and chassis refinements that the competitive landscape required, while attempting to preserve the fundamental character of engine response and chassis communication that the original had established. Whether the 2017 machine preserved this character adequately is a question that different experienced GSX R1000 owners answer differently, reflecting the genuine difficulty of maintaining a specific character through the engineering changes that competitive development and regulatory compliance require. The question itself, which is specific and real rather than nostalgic, is evidence of how much the machine's specific character matters to the people who have ridden successive generations of it. The Suzuki DR800S, produced from 1990 to 1999, was the largest displacement production single-cylinder motorcycle of its era and represented the upper boundary of what the Dr. philosophy could be extended to in a road-legal, practically usable package. The 779cc single-cylinder engine of the DR800S produced a specific combination of low-end torque and mid-range pulling power that the smaller Dr. machines approached but could not replicate at the same intensity. And the experience of riding a large displacement thumper at the edge of what a single cylinder can do in terms of displacement and displacement-derived torque is genuinely distinctive in ways that multi-cylinder machines of comparable total power cannot replicate. The DR800S's production period ended when emissions regulations made the large displacement single increasingly difficult to develop further without fundamental engine redesign, and the DR650 survived as the practical upper bound of what regulatory compliance allowed the Dr. philosophy to encompass in its existing form. The DR800S's specific contribution to the Dr. lineage is the demonstration of how far the philosophy could be pushed, which defined the range within which the more durable DR650 would settle as the practical expression of what the philosophy could maintain across the long term. The Suzuki Access 125, the company's most commercially successful scooter in the Indian market and one of the best-selling scooters in any market in the world by annual volume, has maintained its market-leading position in the Indian 125cc scooter segment across more than a decade of production through a combination of mechanical quality, practical specification, and Suzuki's specific understanding of what the Indian urban scooter customer values in their daily transportation. The Access 125's specific features, including a 125cc fuel-injected single-cylinder engine with class-leading fuel economy, underseat storage sufficient for a full-face helmet, and a build quality that sustains daily use in the specific conditions of Indian urban riding over extended ownership periods without the mechanical issues that lower-cost alternatives accumulate, are precisely the features that the specific customer who buys the Access 125 values most highly. The product's ability to maintain this market position against competitors, including Honda's Activa, which is the only scooter that outsells it in the Indian market, reflects the quality of the engineering and the consistency of the manufacturing that Suzuki Motorcycle India maintains for the machine. The Suzuki GS150R, produced for the Pakistani market as a specific calibration of the GS platform for one of Asia's most significant emerging motorcycle markets, illustrates the degree of market-specific product calibration that Suzuki applies across its international operations. Pakistan's motorcycle market is dominated by Chinese licensed copies of Japanese designs at the 70cc displacement level, with the 125cc and 150cc segments representing the aspirational tier of the market where brand reputation and mechanical quality differentiate products from the commodity alternatives. The GS150R's specific calibration for Pakistani road conditions, fuel quality, and ambient temperatures reflected the same engineering discipline that produces the V-Strom 650 for European touring and the Access 125 for Indian urban commuting, an honest assessment of what the machine needs to do in the specific context of its use, followed by engineering choices that serve those needs correctly. The geographic breadth of this engineering commitment, from Pakistan to Germany to Australia to the United States, is one of the most underappreciated aspects of Suzuki's global manufacturing intelligence. The Suzuki Hayabusa's position in the contemporary motorcycle market, after more than 2 decades of production and with the second generation now established in the market, is one of the more interesting commercial phenomena in the premium motorcycle segment. The machine exists in a category that it effectively created and that no other manufacturer has successfully challenged with an equivalent product, which means that the Hayabusa has no direct competitor in the traditional sense of a comparable machine from another manufacturer. The machines that come closest, including the BMW S1000RR in performance terms and the Kawasaki H2 in technical ambition terms, serve different purposes in different ways and do not directly contest the specific position that the Hayabusa occupies. This absence of direct competition is unusual in any product market and is the consequence of the specific combination of aerodynamic development, displacement, and character that the Hayabusa represents being sufficiently specific that other manufacturers have not chosen to contest it directly. The Hayabusa does not compete, it occupies. The Suzuki RGV 500 factory machine, the Grand Prix motorcycle that Kevin Schwantz rode to the 1993 500cc World Championship, was the machine that brought together the technical achievement of the square 4 two-stroke engine configuration with the specific riding talent of one of the most naturally gifted and most spectacular riders in Grand Prix history. Schwantz's championship in 1993, which was his only world title despite multiple near misses in previous seasons, was achieved on a machine whose specific character matched his specific riding style in ways that the other Suzuki factory riders of the era found more demanding. Schwantz's commitment to corner entry speed and his willingness to manage the rear wheel's behavior through throttle control rather than through conservative entry speeds produced a riding style that the RGV 500's specific power delivery character rewarded, and the championship result was the commercial and competitive validation of the engineering development that Suzuki's racing team had pursued. Through the late 1980s and into the early 1990s, the 1993 championship was Suzuki's last in the 500cc class before the switch to the MotoGP 4-stroke formula, and the machine and rider who achieved it are jointly the pinnacle of what Suzuki's two-stroke Grand Prix program produced. The quiet has settled fully now, and the night has given everything it had to give. The Suzuki story is the story of a company that came from weaving machines and found in the motorcycle a permanent and serious vocation. And the machines it has built across 7 decades of production are the most complete expression of what that vocation means when it is pursued with the specific combination of engineering discipline, commercial honesty, and customer respect that Michio Suzuki established in the first years of the company's motorcycle manufacturing history. The machines are quieter in their excellence than the stories that surround the more loudly celebrated brands in the Japanese motorcycle industry. The Hayabusa does not shout about what it is. The SV650 does not announce its importance to club racing culture. The DR650 does not market its 30-year track record of expedition reliability. The V-Strom 650 does not insist on its 2 decades of touring excellence. They simply do what they do, consistently and correctly, for the riders who have found them and who have understood what they offer. This specific quality of honest, sustained excellence without insistence is the most Suzuki thing about Suzuki, and it is the quality that the riders who have been loyal to the brand across decades of ownership know best. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel. These rides are here every night you need them, and the engine stays warm for as long as the road keeps going. Rest well. The Suzuki will be there in the morning, ready and unhurried, exactly as you left it. The Suzuki Bandit 600, in the generation that ran from 1995 to 2004, with the revised engine and improved chassis, became the most stolen motorcycle in the United Kingdom during the late 1990s and early 2000s, which is a form of recognition that the motorcycle's owners would have preferred to avoid, but that reflects a specific quality of the machine. It was desirable enough to steal and easy. Enough to start quickly enough to make it an attractive target. The Bandit 600's dominance of the theft statistics reflected its dominance of its market segment. There were simply more Bandit 600s on British streets than any comparable machine, and the concentration of supply that this market dominance produced meant that stolen Bandits could be disposed of through the used parts market more efficiently than machines whose parts had less demand. The theft figures are a specific and unintended form of market share measurement, and the Bandit 600's dominance of them is as accurate a representation of its commercial importance in the British market of its era as any sales figure could provide. The Suzuki GSX-R's color heritage is one of the more specifically managed aspects of the machine's visual identity. The original 1985 GSX-R 750 appeared in a distinctive white, blue, and red color scheme that referenced both the Japanese national racing colors and the visual vocabulary of competition machines of the era. Subsequent generations of the GSX-R have appeared in various color combinations, but the blue and white scheme in particular has remained the most closely associated with the GSX-R identity across multiple generations, and has been consistently used for the flagship or most visually prominent variant of each new model generation. The management of color continuity in the GSX-R family, which maintains a visual connection to the original machine through color reference rather than through direct design quotation, is a specific form of brand heritage management that allows successive generations of the machine to look contemporary while maintaining a visual connection to the original that buyers who know the history can recognize. The color carries history in the same way that the Kawasaki green and the Repsol orange carry history, through the accumulated associations of the racing and competitive achievements that have been displayed in it. The Suzuki Access 125's dominance in the Indian scooter market has produced a specific commercial outcome that extends beyond the machine's own sales. It has established Suzuki's brand in India as associated with quality in the scooter segment in a way that benefits the motorcycle product range by association. Indian consumers who have experienced the Access 125's reliability and mechanical quality carry this positive brand association into their consideration of Suzuki's motorcycle products when they progress to a larger machine, and the specific brand equity that the Access 125 has built in the Indian market is transferable to the Gixxer series and the V-Strom in ways that Suzuki's motorcycle marketing alone could not have generated. The commercial intelligence of investing in the quality of the highest volume product in a market to build brand association that benefits the entire range is a strategy that Suzuki has applied more consistently in India than in most other markets, and the commercial outcomes it has produced are visible in the growth of Suzuki's motorcycle market share in India across the decade of the Access 125's dominance. The Suzuki TL1000S's handling controversy, examined more specifically, reflected a specific engineering issue that was more narrowly defined than the public discussion of the machine suggested. The rotary rear damper, a novel design that Suzuki developed for the TL1000S to reduce unsprung weight relative to a conventional monoshock, produced a damping characteristic that was adequate for normal road riding, but that could become insufficient under the specific combination of high-speed cornering loads and sudden load changes that sporting road riding occasionally produces. The specific failure mode was a rear-end instability that was triggered by specific inputs rather than by general use, which meant that many TL1000S owners never encountered it, and that the machine was genuinely excellent for the majority of its ownership experience. The narrowness of the specific condition that triggered the issue made it difficult to communicate accurately in the popular press, which tended to characterize the machine as generally dangerous rather than as exhibiting a specific and avoidable behavior under specific conditions. The revised steering damper that Suzuki subsequently fitted addressed the issue, and the TL1000S in its corrected form was the genuinely excellent machine that its engine and specification had always promised. The Suzuki GSX 1250FA, produced from 2010 to 2016 as a sport touring machine using an updated version of the Bandit 1200's engine in a fully faired chassis, occupied a specific and underappreciated position in the Japanese sport touring segment as a machine that provided the specific character of Suzuki's large displacement four-cylinder engine in a practical and comfortable package at a price that reflected the mechanical content honestly. The GSX 150 FA's engine, which produced strong, accessible power with the specific character of a well-developed Japanese inline-four at moderate states of tune, provided a touring character that experienced riders who had previously owned Bandits and GSXR derivatives found immediately recognizable and specifically satisfying. The machine's modest commercial profile, which reflected the quietness of Suzuki's marketing of it relative to the marketing investment of its primary competitors, meant that it never achieved the recognition that its mechanical quality deserved, and it was eventually discontinued without a direct successor when Suzuki rationalized its touring lineup. The GSX 1250 FA is a machine that its owners rate more highly than the market's general awareness of it suggests it should be, which is a pattern that appears repeatedly in Suzuki's product history. The Suzuki GSX R600's specific contribution to world supersport racing across the championship's history has produced a legacy of technical development that is documented in the championship's record books, but that is less celebrated in general discussion of Suzuki's motorsport achievements than the company's MotoGP and Superbike results. The GSX R600's sustained competitiveness in the supersport class, where the production machine's fundamental specification is the primary determinant of competitive potential, reflects the genuine engineering quality of the road-going machine from which the competition version is derived. In a class where the rules limit modification significantly, a manufacturer cannot compensate for fundamental architecture compromises through development investment in the way that less restricted classes allow. and the GSX R600's sustained competitive presence across multiple supersport seasons is consequently a direct measure of the road machine's engineering quality rather than of the competition team's development resources. This makes the supersport results a more honest measure of the production machine's merit than the championship results in classes where factory development transforms the production machine beyond recognition. The Suzuki company's manufacturing philosophy, which the engineering culture has maintained with consistency across more than 60 years of motorcycle production, places specific emphasis on the relationship between the manufacturing process and the final product quality, rather than on inspection and correction of defects at the end of the production line. This process-first quality philosophy, which reflects the influence of statistical process control methods on Japanese manufacturing more broadly, and the specific implementation of those methods in Suzuki's production facilities, produces the consistency of manufacturing quality that Suzuki's products exhibit across the range from the smallest address scooter to the GSX R1000R. The specific consequence of process-first quality management is that manufacturing variation is minimized at the source rather than filtered out at the end of the process, which produces a population of machines that is more uniformly consistent than the population that inspection-based quality management produces. The rider who buys a Suzuki benefits from this manufacturing philosophy in the form of a machine that performs as closely as possible to the engineering specification, rather than as a member of a population that includes both above specification and below specification examples. The Suzuki SV650's engine configuration, specifically the V-twin with the cylinders at a 90-degree angle, produces a firing interval that is perfectly even in the mechanical sense. Each cylinder fires at exactly equal intervals of 360 degrees of crankshaft rotation, alternating between the two cylinders in a perfectly rhythmic sequence. This even firing interval is mechanically distinct from the 45-degree V-twin of the Harley-Davidson, the 52-degree V-twin of some Kawasaki cruisers, and the various other angles that different manufacturers have used to produce the specific sound and vibration characters associated with their machines. The SV650's 90-degree angle, which is the same configuration used in the Ducati L-twin and in Honda's early VFR V4, produces a mechanical balance that is superior to narrower angle V-twins, because the cylinder firing intervals match the crankshaft's natural vibration frequencies in a way that reduces the primary vibration forces transmitted to the frame and rider. The practical consequence of this mechanical balance is a smooth power delivery that is perceived by many riders as one of the SV650's most valued qualities, and the engine's specific character at the moderate revs that road riding most frequently exercises is the immediate expression of this mechanical balance. The Suzuki Hayabusa's relationship with the customization industry, which is broader and more internationally distributed than that of almost any other production motorcycle, has produced a global economy of aftermarket parts, accessories, and services specifically designed for the machine that is remarkable for its breadth and depth relative to the production volume of the machine itself. The Hayabusa aftermarket includes not only performance parts for the drag racing and track day communities, but bodywork alternatives, paint systems, exhaust systems, electronic tuning devices, suspension upgrades, and lifestyle accessories that extend the machine's identity beyond the motorcycle itself into a broader consumer category. The depth of this aftermarket economy reflects the intensity of the ownership experience that the Hayabusa provides, and the degree to which owners seek to personalize their machines in ways that express their specific relationship with an object of such specific identity. The machine's long production life, with the second generation maintaining close specification continuity with the first, has also contributed to the aftermarket's depth by maintaining parts compatibility across a long production period that gives the aftermarket economy the time to mature. The Suzuki GSXR's influence on motorcycle helmet design, through the specific demands that its riding position placed on the field of view available through the visor of helmets designed for road use, is one of the more indirect but genuine contributions the machine made to the safety equipment industry. The racing position of the original GSXR required riders to look up through the top of the visor aperture when tucked behind the fairing at speed, and the helmet designs that were available at the time of the machine's introduction were not optimized for this specific visual requirement. The GSXR's introduction created a significant population of riders consistently using helmets in a riding position that the helmet's designers had not fully accommodated. And the response of the helmet industry to this user community's specific requirements produced helmet designs with improved upper field of view that benefited not only GSXR riders, but all riders who adopted the riding position that the GSXR established as the standard for sports motorcycle use. The Suzuki V-Strom 1000, the predecessor to the current V-Strom 1050, was one of the first Japanese adventure motorcycles to offer ABS as standard equipment across all variants in the European market, reflecting Suzuki's early recognition that the adventure market's specific risk profile, which includes the unpredictable surface transitions that mixed surface riding produces, made ABS a genuine safety benefit rather than an optional enhancement for this specific category of use. The V-Strom 1000's early adoption of standard ABS in the European market was ahead of the regulatory requirement that subsequently made ABS mandatory across the segment, and the engineering investment in calibrating the ABS system for the specific demands of adventure use, including the management of ABS intervention on loose surfaces where conventional ABS intervention would degrade rather than improve braking performance, reflected Suzuki's understanding of the machine's actual use context rather than simply the regulatory requirement. The Suzuki GSXR's club racing dominance in Australia, particularly in the various state-level club racing championships that provide the entry point for motorsport participation in Australian motorcycle racing, parallels the machine's dominance of club racing in the United Kingdom and reflects the same combination of machine qualities and community dynamics that has produced the British result. The Australian club racing community's embrace of the GSXR has been sustained across multiple generations of the machine, with the community's specific knowledge of the machine's setup, requirements, and the competition regulations accommodation of the machine specification, producing a self-reinforcing dynamic in which the GSXR's prevalence in the paddock generates the expertise that makes GSXR ownership more commercially viable for the competitive rider. The Australian climate-specific contribution to this dynamic is worth noting: the year-round riding season that Australian conditions provide, compared to the shorter seasons that northern European climates impose, produces a more intensively practiced and more technically developed club racing community that generates more specific expertise about the machines it races. The Suzuki GSX R1000 in the hands of Ben Spies, who won the World Superbike Championship in 2009 on a factory-supported Yoshimura Suzuki team entry, provided the most recent World Superbike title that Suzuki has won and demonstrated that the machine's competitive potential in the championship remained genuine even as the competitive landscape of the class grew more complex with successive engineering advances from Ducati, Kawasaki, and Aprilia. Spice's championship was achieved in a competitive season of high quality, with multiple manufacturers and multiple riders capable of winning rounds, and the specific engineering that the Yoshimura team applied to the GSXR 1000 within the championship's regulations reflected a depth of knowledge about the machine's specific potential that factory racing programs with longer histories of GSXR development had accumulated. The championship is Suzuki's last in the World Superbike Series as of the current period, and the engineering knowledge that produced it continues to inform the development of the GSXR 1000 that private teams and factory-supported programs continue to campaign in the championship. The road is still going, and the night is still generous. The Suzuki story has more to offer than any single night can fully exhaust, and the facts that remain carry the same specific quality as the ones that have already arrived: honest, specific, and genuinely interesting to anyone who takes the time to look at them carefully. The Suzuki Swift Sport, the company's performance automobile, carries the same engineering philosophy into the four-wheel compact performance car segment that the GSXR and the Hayabusa carry into the motorcycle segment, a machine designed primarily for the quality of the driving experience it provides within the specific constraints of its size and price category, with weight reduction and chassis precision prioritized over outright power in the configuration of the machine's performance character. The Swift Sport's specific appeal in its segment is the same quality that makes the GSXR and SV650 valued by experienced riders, a machine that communicates honestly with its operator through the controls and that rewards skill and attention rather than simply producing results in proportion to the power available. The philosophical connection between Suzuki's motorcycle and automobile performance products is not coincidental. It reflects a company-wide engineering culture that values the quality of the interaction between machine and operator as the primary engineering objective, across whatever product category the engineering is applied to. The Suzuki Hayabusa's specific contribution to the development of aerodynamic knowledge in the motorcycle industry is more substantial than the machine's commercial significance alone would justify. The wind tunnel testing program that produced the original Hayabusa's aerodynamic design was the most comprehensive that any motorcycle manufacturer had conducted up to that point, and the methods and findings of that program were shared in part through the academic and engineering publications that covered the project. The specific technical understanding of motorcycle aerodynamics that the Hayabusa program developed, including the relationship between fairing geometry and stability at extreme speeds, the specific contributions of different body components to total drag reduction, and the management of aerodynamic lift at very high speeds became part of the engineering knowledge base available to the entire motorcycle industry through the documentation of the Hayabusa's development. The Hayabusa's aerodynamic program is one of the more significant single contributions to the published knowledge of motorcycle aerodynamics in the history of the discipline. The Suzuki GS series machines of the late 1970s, in their specific role as the commercial foundation for the GSXR's subsequent development, also played a specific role in establishing Suzuki's dealer network in international markets in ways that were essential to the commercial success of the GSXR when it arrived. A dealer who had been selling and servicing GS series machines for several years had accumulated the customer relationships, the technical knowledge, and the parts supply infrastructure that made them capable of supporting the GSXR's introduction effectively. The commercial success of the GSXR in its first years of production was partly a consequence of the dealer network capabilities that the GS series had developed, And without those capabilities, the GSXR's commercial launch, however successful its engineering, would have been limited by the distribution constraints that an underdeveloped dealer network would have imposed. The Suzuki Hayabusa's continued commercial success in the second decade of the 21st century, when the machine's performance specification was being exceeded by motorcycles with more sophisticated electronics and more advanced chassis engineering, reflects the degree to which the Hayabusa's appeal is not primarily a performance specification appeal. The riders who continue to buy new Hayabusas in the current market are not buying the most powerful or the most technically sophisticated machine available. They are buying the specific combination of aerodynamic identity, engine character, and cultural significance that the Hayabusa provides and that nothing else in the market provides in the same form. This is the specific quality that distinguishes an iconic product from a merely excellent one. An iconic product occupies a specific position in the culture and in the rider's experience that no amount of competitive technical advancement displaces, because the competition is not in the dimension that the iconic product defines. The night has held the Suzuki story generously and without rushing any of it. The facts have arrived steadily, each one a specific and honest piece of the picture of a company that has been making motorcycles since the looms stopped selling, that has made them with the specific quality that Michio Suzuki understood was the only worthwhile standard to work to, and that has placed them in the hands of riders on every continent who have trusted them to do what they claim to do and have not been disappointed by that trust. The engine note of a well-maintained Suzuki V-twin at highway cruise, the specific quality of a 90-degree V-twin at the revs and throttle position that long-distance road use most frequently exercises, is one of the more meditative sounds available in motorcycling, combining the rhythmic character of a twin-cylinder firing sequence with the mechanical smoothness of a balanced engine configuration, in a way that settles into the background of consciousness rather than demanding the rider's attention. This specific quality of an engine note that accompanies rather than intrudes, that provides a sensory foundation for the riding experience without competing with the landscape and the road for the rider's awareness, is one of the things that the V-Strom 650's long-distance riders consistently identify as one of the machine's most valued qualities. The engine is there. The road is there. The machine does not insist that the engine be the primary thing the rider is experiencing, and this specific quality of auditory restraint is, paradoxically, one of the engine's most distinctive characteristics to the riders who know it well. Subscribe to the Sleepy Rider channel. The Suzuki story, like the best long rides, rewards the people who stay with it all the way. Subscribe and keep these nights close. Rest well. The Suzuki RM250's specific contribution to American motocross history in the 1990s. When the machine was campaigned by riders including Jeremy McGrath in the Supercross discipline, is part of a competitive heritage that the company maintained through the two-stroke era and that informed the subsequent development of the four-stroke RMZ series. McGrath's dominance of Supercross in the mid-1990s was not achieved exclusively on Suzuki machinery, but the specific period of his career during which he raced factory Suzuki equipment produced results that validated the RM250's competitive engineering at the highest level of American Supercross competition. The knowledge that McGrath and the factory team accumulated about the RM250's specific behavior in the Supercross environment, with its rhythm sections, triples, and tight technical sections that reward different handling characteristics from outdoor motocross, contributed to the refinement of the machine's chassis setup in ways that subsequent production versions benefited from. The Suzuki GSXR's place in the development of motorcycle media, specifically in the magazine journalism that covered the sports motorcycle market through the late 1980s and 1990s, is a specific contribution that the machine made to the culture of motorcycle enthusiasm beyond its direct riding significance. The GSXR gave motorcycle journalists something genuinely new to write about in 1985. A machine whose performance and specification required a different vocabulary and a different frame of reference from the machines they had previously been testing. And the development of that vocabulary across the specialist motorcycle press of multiple countries in the years following the GSXR's introduction produced a richer and more technically sophisticated form of motorcycle journalism than had existed before. The journalists who first tested the GSXR were required to articulate aspects of the riding experience, the specific character of the chassis feedback, the particular quality of the engine's power delivery at racing speeds that previous production machines had not required them to articulate. And the vocabulary they developed for these specific qualities has remained the standard language of sports motorcycle journalism ever since. The GXR did not just create a machine, it created a way of writing about machines. The Suzuki Bergman 650's specific engineering achievement, the most sophisticated continuously variable transmission fitted to a production scooter at the time of its introduction, reflected Suzuki's investment in CV technology development across multiple vehicle categories including automobiles. The Bergman 650's key VT uses a torque converter and a belt and pulley system that manages ratio changes with a sophistication that allows the engine to operate near its optimal efficiency point across a wide range of road speeds, producing fuel economy that approaches the efficiency of a manually shifted gearbox at sustained cruising speeds while providing the seamless and effortless operation that the scooter format's customers value. The engineering of a CVT that can manage the torque output of a 638cc parallel twin engine reliably across an extended service life required specific materials and design approaches that Suzuki developed through its automotive CVT program and adapted for the motorcycle application. The Bergman 650 remains one of the technically most sophisticated CVT-equipped motorcycles available in the current market, and its sustained production across more than 2 decades reflects the durability of both the engineering and the market it serves. The Suzuki GSX R750 in its 1988 generation, which introduced liquid cooling to the GSX-R platform after the original air-oil-cooled versions had established the machine's reputation, represented a specific engineering evolution that was necessary for the platform's continued development, but that was received with some ambivalence by the community that had formed around the original air-cooled machines. The air-oil-cooled GSX-R's engine, with its finned aluminum cylinders and the visible oil cooler that was central to its thermal management system, had a visual character that was specifically and honestly mechanical in a way that the liquid-cooled system's plumbing and radiator did not replicate. The transition to liquid cooling was necessary for the power levels that subsequent development required and for the emissions compliance that regulations increasingly demanded, but it changed the character of the machine's visual presentation in ways that some owners found less honest than the original's more obviously mechanical appearance. This response to the change from air oil to liquid cooling is a small-scale version of the more general tension between engineering development and character preservation that appears throughout the history of the GSX-R and of performance motorcycles more broadly. The Suzuki Company's approach to the African market, specifically in sub-Saharan Africa, where the motorcycle serves as the primary means of commercial transport in large parts of the rural economy, reflects the same market-specific engineering intelligence that produces the Access 125 for India and the Address series for Southeast Asia. Suzuki's African market products, which include small displacement motorcycles calibrated for the specific road surfaces, fuel quality, and maintenance access that African rural riding conditions involve, are engineered with a specific understanding of what durability means in a context where a mechanical failure in a remote location has consequences that go beyond inconvenience. The rider who depends on a motorcycle for their income, as the boda boda motorcycle taxi operator in Uganda or the dispatch rider in rural Nigeria does, has a different relationship with the machine's reliability than the recreational rider in a market with comprehensive mechanical support infrastructure. And the machines that Suzuki produces for these markets reflect a genuine engineering understanding of this different relationship. The Suzuki GSX S125 and GSX R125, the smallest displacement machines in the GSX-S and GSX-R families, use a 124cc single-cylinder engine in chassis that apply the visual language and some of the riding character of the larger machines to the regulatory and practical context of the European A1 license category. The significance of these machines goes beyond their modest displacement. They are the machines through which the next generation of enthusiast riders has its first contact with the specific riding character that the GX family represents. And the quality of this first contact is a significant determinant of whether these riders progress within the brand or pursue their subsequent machines. Elsewhere, Suzuki's decision to invest in chassis quality for the GSX S125 and GSX R125 beyond what the purely commercial logic of the entry-level segment would mandate reflects an understanding of this long-term brand relationship that is more strategically sophisticated than the machine's immediate commercial margins justify on their own terms. The Suzuki Teeds series of trail bikes, produced from the 1970s and popular in markets including the United Kingdom and Australia, where the smaller displacement dual sport market was commercially significant, established Suzuki's off-road heritage at the recreational level in markets where the Doctor series subsequently built on this foundation. The TS50, TS100, TS125 and TS185 served the recreational and light-duty off-road market with the same engineering values that the Doctor series applied to more demanding applications. And a community of TS series riders who developed their off-road skills on these machines in the 1970s and 1980s provided the customer base for the Doctor series in the following decades. The connection between the TS series and the Doctor series in Suzuki's product history is the connection between the machine that introduced a generation of riders to off-road riding and the machine that served them when those skills had developed to the point where a more capable machine was appropriate. This generational product continuity, in which each generation of machine serves a segment of the riding population that the previous generation helped create, is one of the more coherent aspects of Suzuki's product strategy across its history. The Suzuki GSX R1000R's Lens electronic racing suspension, standard equipment on the R variant, uses an electronic control unit that processes data from the machine's EMU and from dedicated suspension travel sensors to adjust the compression and rebound damping of the front and rear suspension in real time, providing suspension performance that adapts continuously to the riding conditions. Rather than requiring the rider or a technician to set damping in advance for anticipated conditions, this electronic suspension technology represents the current frontier of production motorcycle suspension development, and its implementation on the GSX R1000R reflects the direct transfer of technology from Suzuki's MotoGP program, where electronically controlled suspension has been standard for several seasons, to a production machine. The quality of the electronic suspension's real-time response, which determines whether the system provides a genuinely better riding experience than manually adjusted high-quality conventional suspension, or simply a more convenient one, is the key measure of the technology's maturity in the production motorcycle application, and the GSX R1000R's implementation has been assessed by experienced riders as being in the former category. The Suzuki V-Strom's naming convention, which uses the V to reference the V-twin engine and the Strom, meaning storm in German, to reference the machine's all-weather capability, reflects a specific German language marketing decision that was made for a machine initially developed with the European market as its primary commercial target. The European adventure touring market, which is dominated by German and Central European riders who have made the adventure motorcycle the most commercially significant segment of the European motorcycle market across the 2000s and 2010s, responds to product names that carry German linguistic associations because the segment's cultural center of gravity is German. Suzuki's choice of a German word for the storm in the V-Strom's name was a deliberate acknowledgement of this cultural reality and the name's adoption globally. In markets where German language associations carry no particular resonance, reflects the commercial success of the original European market strategy rather than a global naming logic that would have produced the same name from a different starting point. The Suzuki GSX-R's relationship with the development of motorcycle racing, tires across the period of the machine's commercial dominance of the track day and club racing market, is a relationship of mutual development that produced advances in tire technology specifically because the GSX-R community's density created a large and commercially significant market. For tires designed for the specific demands of track day use on a specific machine, the tire manufacturers who developed and marketed tires specifically for the GSX-R track day application, including Bridgestone and Pirelli in particular, accumulated specific knowledge about the GSX-R's tire demands through the feedback of the large community of riders using their products on the machine in track conditions. This specific feedback, applied at scale across a population of riders large enough to produce statistically significant insights, drove tire development in directions that benefited not only GSX-R riders, but all riders who used sport tires on high-performance machines. Because the knowledge of how to optimize tire behavior at the speeds and lean angles that the GSX-R produced was applicable to the broader category of machines that the GSX-R had defined. The Suzuki GSX S1000F, the half-faired version of the GSX S1000 that added a windscreen and slightly modified ergonomics for improved weather protection and rider comfort on longer journeys, occupies the specific market position of a machine for the rider who wants the GSX S1000's engine character and handling quality in a format that is more practically usable for daily commuting and light touring than the fully naked GSX S1000 allows. The F variant's commercial success in markets where daily commuting in varied weather conditions is the primary riding context reflects the genuinely different practical requirements of the rider who uses their motorcycle for transportation as well as recreation, and the quality of the engineering that Suzuki applied to the F variant's windscreen and ergonomic modifications, both of which affect the practical riding experience significantly, and both of which receive less engineering attention in some competing machines than their importance to the daily rider justifies, is one of the specific qualities that F-variant owners consistently identify as central to their satisfaction with the machine. The Suzuki history is the history of machines that have been built with specific and sustained attention to what they need to be for the people who will use them, across a range of uses in markets and rider communities that spans the full breadth of what motorcycles can mean in human lives. From the loom manufacturer who needed to survive and found that motorcycles were the answer, through the engineers who built the GSX R750 with the total race concept as their guide, through the MotoGP engineers who brought Joan Mir to the 2020 World Championship, through the manufacturing teams who built Access 125 scooters for Indian commuters and DR650 trail bikes for overlanding expeditions, the thread of engineering quality and commercial honesty runs without interruption. The machines are different in every dimension of their specification. The quality of attention to what the machine needs to be is the same in all of them. The night has been long and generous, and the Suzuki story has filled it with the specific quality that honest engineering produces when it is applied consistently over a long time. Not spectacle, not mythology, not the drama of racing victories and engineering record-breaking, but the quieter and more durable satisfaction of machines that work correctly for the people who depend on them, across the full range of what depending on a motorcycle can mean. This is the most Suzuki thing about Suzuki, and it is the quality that stays with you longest after the engine note has faded and the road has settled into the silence of a good night's sleep. The Suzuki GSX-R's second-hand market value retention, which has consistently exceeded the value retention of most competing sports machines across every generation of the product, reflects the specific combination of durability and desirability that a machine needs to hold its value across the years of its post-sale existence. A machine that is both desirable enough to attract buyers in the used market and durable enough to still be mechanically sound when they buy it retains its value better than a machine that possesses only one of these qualities. And the GSX-R's specific combination of genuine durability and the sustained desirability of the Suzuki Sports heritage has made it one of the strongest value-retaining sports motorcycles available across multiple generations of production. This value retention is not simply a consequence of the machine's engineering quality. It is a consequence of the GSX-R community's specific engagement with the machine, which sustains demand for used examples at a level that matches or exceeds the supply of machines coming onto the used market as owners replace them with newer versions. The community's enthusiasm for the machine sustains its value in the used market, and the machine's quality sustains the community's enthusiasm, a self-reinforcing relationship between product and community that produces commercial outcomes beyond what engineering quality alone would generate. The Suzuki Hayabusa's position as the defining production motorcycle of its specific era, the late 1990s and early 2000s, is secured by a combination of technical achievement and cultural timing that is difficult to replicate deliberately and that reflects a specific alignment of engineering capability, regulatory environment, and cultural moment that produce something genuinely unique. The Hayabusa arrived at the precise moment when production motorcycle aerodynamics, engine technology, and chassis engineering had all advanced to the point where a single machine could integrate them into an achievement that exceeded anything previously available, and before the regulatory environment that the machine's own performance helped to create made a direct sequel impossible. The machine that came before could not have done what the Hayabusa did. The machines that came after were constrained by the agreement that the Hayabusa's arrival had made necessary. The Hayabusa exists in a specific window of possibility that opened and closed around it, and the machine that fills that window will be there for as long as the Hayabusa name continues to be produced. The Suzuki SV650's 25-year continuous production run across 3 distinct generations of mechanical and electronic development, while the essential character of the machine has remained consistent enough to be recognizable from the first generation to the current one, is the most direct evidence available that Suzuki identified something genuinely correct about the SV650's fundamental formula in 1999, and has been disciplined enough to develop and refine that formula rather than abandoning it for something more dramatically novel. The first generation SV650's V-twin character, its chassis feedback quality, and its specific balance of performance and accessibility are all present in the current machine in recognizably developed form. And the riders who owned the first generation and who have subsequently ridden the current generation consistently describe the experience as continuous with their first encounter rather than as a departure from it. This continuity across a quarter century of production is not a consequence of the machine having been left undeveloped. It is a consequence of the machine having been developed with a specific respect for what it was that made it worth developing in the first place. That is the most Suzuki thing Suzuki has ever done with a motorcycle, and it is exactly enough.